Last time, a red meteorite tore through the fragile alliances of Donghoon, Yonghyuk, and Dokja, and now something far more personal erupts. A figure with pale purple hair stands on a rooftop, looking down at three silhouetted bodies already lying motionless below. Blue energy coils from an outstretched hand, screaming into shape, a spear, razor-edged and ruthless. Someone is asking for an explanation. The answer comes in steel and light. The title drops, Hand Jumper, Chapter 80, Crow, Heron, Wolf. A pale-skinned figure with a black teardrop mark over one eye watches in eerie silence. Out on the urban street, the purple-haired figure drags a dark-haired individual along the ground with a whip of glowing blue energy, their expression locked in cold, surgical focus. The one being dragged, serious, unbroken. This is not a chase. This is a hunt. The palate warms, but the tension doesn't. A dark-haired teen in a suit gestures excitedly, talking about fate and destiny. His companion, pale-skinned in a high-collared white outfit, listens with dangerous optimism. He recalls being beaten by a girl. Rather than humiliation, he calls it fate, a rematch written in the stars. This man isn't nursing a wound. He's nurturing an obsession. Under an open sky, a dark-haired youth speaks with measured calm. But a narrator cuts through, labeling the blonde man beside him as frightening. A foolish child trapped in an adult body who genuinely believes he is the grand story. And then a girl in red and gold screams her intent to remove hearts. The blonde man grins and reminds someone called Heron that they seek a worthier opponent, because Yesalna is inconveniently in town. The light-haired man in the dark coat smiles because for him this is occasion. High-level wolves rarely leave their territory, and interrogating powerless nobodies is beneath him now. They are hunting a beast. The dark-haired man beside him stiffens. A flashback flickers, a man in a suit lifting a laughing child, golden light surrounding them. Purpose, the narration whispers. People can't live without it. A curly-haired boy in a bright yellow shirt reaches out, hopeful, urgent, alive. But the panels darken fast. A shadowy figure stands over someone in red, motionless on the ground. A contemplative woman sits at a desk surrounded by tension she cannot name. A boy holds a blue object in a bleak, colorless space. Some people are given purpose, the narration murmurs. Others build their own, only to have it ripped away. The purple-haired figure's blue eyes flare and they breathe a single, furious curse. Then, a church. Sunlight pouring through tall windows, rows of wooden pews, and a dark-haired man turning to welcome what he calls a new face in his congregation. The purple-haired figure sits down in one of those pews, coat still on, and asks a single word, "Church," like they walked into the wrong story entirely. The dark-haired man with vivid blue eyes leans across the table and strips away every pretense. This is a cult. The pale-haired man in the clerical collar lures followers with promises of a godling, isolates them, then funnels them like liquid through a pipe into rapture trafficking syndicates like the Begonia Group. Symbolic red and purple silhouettes make the horror clinical, almost beautiful, and then those blue eyes flash, hard. The pale-haired cult leader doesn't flinch. He deflects with a single word, aberrant, then asks coolly who the young man works for. When the dark-haired man stays silent, the cult leader slides across a business card for a chicken shop and begins talking about bleeding fingers, Olympic dreams, and a father who pushed him toward greatness. It is completely unhinged, and somehow more terrifying for it. The bearded man's voice cracks as he describes a father who dictated every moment of his existence, every action, every purpose. Across from him, the blue-eyed youth listens intently, something shifting behind his eyes. Then a third voice erupts, ragged, angry, green-shirted, telling the youth he doesn't care anymore. Join the Corps, run away, just don't hurt anybody. The weight of a father's final words, hanging in the air like smoke. Jiu Min Yu makes his offer calmly, like a man who has rehearsed it 1,000 times. Let him into the Begonia Group and he'll drop everything. 10 years without violence because his father forbade it. But his father is dead now. A silver-haired figure with one luminous purple eye watches from the background, calling him an odd bird. In this world, grief is currency. and Jayu Min is ready to spend it all. A group of figures dissects a fighter named Heron like he's a weapon still being calibrated. Socially incompetent, treats combat as sport, has already killed 11 people. The silver-haired figure in the flowing coat insists Heron is progressing exceptionally, that one day he'll stand equal to the Corps' highest officers. But another voice cuts in, noting an anomaly. And someone quietly wonders aloud, his next opponent is a girl. The curly-haired figure in a baseball cap seethes. Their super instinct was right. The factory was the correct call. Ryujin confirms they earned massive points for their cell. Begonia Group aberrants were right there. But the victory curdles fast. The cap-wearing figure spins around and jabs a finger at a long-haired teammate, furious, accusing them of doing this on purpose. Two silhouettes stand on a factory rooftop under a bruised sky, and the argument below them is just getting started. A purple aura erupts around the pale-haired cult leader like a warning bell, and the dark-haired man's eyes ignite, red and purple bleeding through his irises. He senses an aberrant, first faint, then close, dangerously close. On the rooftops, the cult leader turns to a dark-haired young man, Heron, and delivers a single command, follow. And they run, silhouettes flickering across the urban skyline like shadows with teeth. White energy detonates from the ground, scattering debris like shrapnel. Two figures leap from a building and hit the red rooftop running, one light-haired with glowing blue eyes, one dark. Elsewhere, a light brown-haired man in a black suit freezes mid-step. An aberrant, here, and Juni isn't with them. His dark-haired companion, face hidden in shadow, asks the question neither of them wants to answer. What do they do now? The brown-red-haired man in the suit weighs it cleanly. The smart move is retreat, safe, rational, but it means leaving points on the table, and something in him won't accept that. He wonders aloud what would happen if they just headed toward the action. The chapter title card answers him, Hand Jumper, Chapter 81, Beast Hunting. From above, two tiny figures stand at the bottom of a canyon of buildings, and the narration warns, aura is unreliable. The silver-haired man explains it carefully. Essence can only be sensed once activated, but with effort, it can also be concealed. Some aberrants are naturally gifted at sensing it. Others have honed that sensitivity to a razor's edge. The curly, dark-haired youth in a navy beanie insists he feels something coming from the west, and the character with quiet purple eyes just smiles, as if they already know what's out there. Yesalna walks alone through a rundown alley, hooded and pensive, unaware she's being tracked. In a purple mental space, Heron marvels at Mr. Hope's ability to locate her from a distance, calling him a human radar. Mr. Hope smiles and tells Heron to learn this skill for when he's no longer around to help. Heron's expression falters, and Yesal, leaning against a damp wall, seems to sense something, answering no one. You never know. The cult leader walks the gray sidewalk, purple aura bleeding off him with every step, his single glowing eye fixed on a distant target. Unbelievable, he thinks, it really is her. But then doubt creeps in. He stops mid-thought. They've hunted her down, or is it the other way around? The dark-haired figure in the blue hoodie stands alone against a wall ahead, motionless as if she's been waiting the whole time. Yesalna erupts with a burst of blue energy, the SHAA of it filling the alley like a thunderclap. Two figures outlined in purple halt, realizing something. Their cloaking gift conceals aura as well. If Yesal can't sense them, then she's reacting to something else entirely. They look down the alleyway. She's already surrounded by crackling blue light, and she says it plainly. She heard footsteps. She's been ready this whole time. Yesalna doesn't waste words. She's looking for a boy, and she'll draw out every possible suspect by fighting all of them at once. Her blue energy crackles with quiet menace as she demands, well, what are you waiting for? In the background, two figures wrapped in red auras exchange glances, doubting whether this young captain is really capable. She's inexperienced, they mutter. Unproven. They have no idea what's about to hit them. Another Yesal, this one with short brown hair and a pink top, sits across from a suited agent, trying to make betrayal sound reasonable. 140 million won for the smallest bit of information about what the sea wolves know about the godling. The agent crosses his arms. The bribe goes nowhere. And then the narration shifts to blood on diner floor tiles, civilians scattering, and the quiet admission: bribery failed. A brown-haired man in a blue hoodie speaks into apparent emptiness, questioning whether anyone is even listening. Talented, he says of someone, but short-sighted and reckless. The perfect test for Heron. His hand moves to his chin. Was he wrong? Is nobody there? He asks the air directly. Then a jab sound effect. An intense blue eye fills the panel. Someone was there the whole time. Blue energy detonates, a sharp projectile deflected with a crack, spiderweb crack splitting stone. A black-haired man in dark sunglasses lunges forward, generating more energy, thinking her reaction speed is, and then the brown-haired man cuts him off. There you are. He stands in the center of a swirling blue aura, unshaken. Then a purple-haired figure with wide blue eyes blinks in from another direction, confused. Another player has entered the board. The cult leader, wreathed in purple, fires blue energy downward and complains. This is like playing whack-a-mole. Across the city, a dark-haired boy in a beige shirt tears through a crowded public space, screaming for Yes al-Nuna. His desperation fills the panels. He's searching, and he focuses every bit of himself into it, because if he tries hard enough, if he pours everything into that single point of concentration, he can almost feel her. The boy slows, exhausted, pressing inward. The warmth of Yes al-Nuna's aura flickers at the edge of his awareness. She came looking for him. He knows it, but he's untrained, and tracking essence is draining him completely. An older figure named Changsub cuts through with a harsh assessment. The boy is different from normal aberrants, weaker, with barely any essence to speak of. The boy's face tightens. He knows, and he's running out of time. The moment holds, suspended, a breath between the chaos that came before and the collision barreling forward. Whatever words passed here, whatever was exchanged in shadow and silence, it settles into the bones of every character carrying it forward. Some decisions aren't made in loud moments. Some are made in the quiet ones no one sees coming. The dark-haired boy with yellow eyes sprints through the urban alley, screaming for his Nuna, lamenting that the outside world hates him. He slams into something invisible and stops cold. Did he just hit a wall? A tall, dark-suited figure above him speaks. So you're the one emitting a faint aura. The boy looks up wide-eyed, his yellow irises burning, and recognition floods through him. Yes al-Nuna. A dark-haired youth with glowing blue eyes and red-framed markings stares ahead in silence, weighing what he knows against what he can afford to do. His wavy brown-haired companion states the obvious and aberrant here, and Juni isn't with them. This is dangerous, unprepared. The dark-haired youth looks down, thinking. Then a chapter card. Hand Jumper, Chapter 82, Team Sports. The name almost sounds playful. Almost. 4 silhouettes stand at the edge of something dangerous. The dark-haired youth with glowing red-framed eyes announces it flatly. There's a rift, coming from the west. Seon's short gray hair, fitted suit, confrontational stance immediately cuts him down, telling him he isn't strong enough to carry his cell through this. If he sees aberrants, he needs to leave. His jaw tightens. He says something cryptic about his own strength. Neither of them backs down. A girl in a school uniform with a red tie lays it out. Cell 4 isn't ready for a real team fight. Aberrants fight in groups. That changes everything. The boy in the black suit nods, conceding the point even as he argues it. Then the boy in the red jacket grins, his glowing weapon already in hand, claiming he's got someone, a connection that might change the odds. The team is fractured and not yet ready, but they're going anyway. A silhouetted figure floats an idea: bring in that one person, and victory is guaranteed. The glasses-wearing boy nearly chokes, dismissing it as foolish. The light brown-haired boy asks which direction they're heading, while the girl in the cap smirks. She can already feel the aura moving. Somewhere amid the banter, the glasses-wearing boy goes quiet, hands on his tie, staring into the middle distance. Something about this plan is eating at him. The purple-haired figure in the black cap turns to Ryujin, asking if the aberrant's aura is really faint. Ryujin says yes and reassures. He trusts his own instincts. They'll scout, no fighting, no real risk. Isol, the brown-haired girl, looks worried, but the taller boy tries to calm her. Then a panel zooms into a single eye, sharp and questioning. Ryujin's trust in his own detection. Is it enough to keep everyone safe? A crimson eye fills the panel. Do you trust me? The voice wants Ryujin to trust them someday. Then the figure with dark glasses and a subtle smirk leans down toward the boy in the cap and proposes a deal. He knows about Ryujin's vendetta against the Jeons, Tiho's family specifically. Help me with this mission, the dark figure says, and I'll help you burn them down. The offer hangs in the air like a blade over a throat. The boy in the cap bristles. Don't patronize me, but he agrees to help, on the condition that his partner's bad decisions won't drag him down. The tall figure with long black hair turns away, already moving, already needing someone specific. Chess pieces float through the narration like an unspoken strategy. Without all the pieces in place, there's no surviving a team fight. Something or someone is still missing from the board. A brown-haired man in a suit watches silently. The pale-haired cult leader narrows his eyes, cold as glass. Then the man in the light blue shirt coughs up blood, hard. A single word leaves him. Oops. He slides down the brick wall, chest soaked red, blue energy burns streaking the stone behind him. A dark hooded figure stands with their back to it all. Witness, or participant. The line between the two is vanishing fast. The brown-haired man in the blue hooded jacket stands calm amid cracking concrete and surging blue energy. He missed the heart, but he knows exactly what his opponent attempted, going invisible, jumping, attacking from above, skewering him downward. Smart, he admits. He would have done the exact same thing. In the distance, a suited figure is shown barely surviving the blast, purple energy trails marking just how close the margin was. Blue energy tears upward again. The black-haired man in the white shirt hangs in the air, dodging, gasping. She lied from the start, he chokes out. He can't pull his essence together. The pain won't let him. The brown-haired man below interrogates with calm precision. Where's your relic? You've been using it to turn invisible. He wants it, and there is nothing in his voice that suggests negotiation. Purple blades slice through the air with a SWSH, invisible strikes, fast and surgical. The brown-haired man weaves through them, narrating as he fights. There's been a hidden ally this whole time, someone who specializes in invisibility. But he has nanocons of reaction time on them, and a glowing purple dagger materializes in his grip. He spins, and there they are. A shadowy, semi-transparent figure in a long coat, weapon already raised. The purple-eyed figure with the long hair blinks, she faltered. The invisible attacker stumbled at the worst possible moment. The brown-haired man glances down, thinking hard. The figure crouching beside him is Changsub, short black hair, yellow glowing eyes, tattered clothes. Changsub barely has any essence, and the brown-haired man's detection skills are famously poor. So why, in this exact moment, could he feel him at all? Across the city, a dark-suited figure feels it, a surge, distant and unmistakable. The boy's aura just spiked, which means only one thing: he is in danger. A close-up reveals the boy himself, back turned, staring at buildings, then whipping around with wide, terrified yellow eyes and an open mouth. The suited figure is already moving before the thought fully forms. There's no time left to delay. A woman in a flowing light green dress stands on a rooftop railing, arms outstretched, cigarette in hand, speaking to no one and everyone. She causes trouble just by existing. There's no place in this world for her. When the aberrant core killed her father, the grief became something volcanic. She wanted to burn everything down. She stands at the edge, literally, and asks what stopped her. The wind doesn't answer. A brown-haired man in glasses runs through a dim corridor, terror etched into every line of his face, a blue-haired girl in a dark hoodie close behind. They find her. Yesal and relief and horror arrive in the same breath. She stands amid blood, face wet with tears, declaring that the Concordat saved her and she will be loyal to them forever. She raises her arm with absolute conviction. One day, she swears, she will take care of the people who took care of her. Between the chaos and the declarations, there is a breath, a space where the weight of everything so far simply exists. No dialogue breaks it, no action defines it. Just the accumulated cost of every choice made in a world where aberrants are either weapons or victims, and sometimes both at once. The silence here is not empty. It is full of everything no one is saying. A group of suited figures closes in on a terrified, disheveled boy in an urban alleyway. He screams at them to leave him alone. A spiky-haired companion roars that they'll regret this. The suits try to calm him, they won't hurt him, but the boy sees through it instantly. That's a fat lie. And then he places them, the aberrant core. His voice shakes. His hands shake, but he doesn't run. A dark-haired man in glasses with one red lens walks carefully, aura detection painting the air gold around him in a faint trace. He splits from his curly brown-haired partner with a white cap. Scout, stay safe. The trace strengthens as he moves, building from muted to overwhelming. And then it locks onto its source. A small, light-haired boy kneeling on the ground, wrapped in a golden smoky aura that fills the space around him like sunrise. Ryujin watches the boy, terrified, aura spiking and crashing with every heartbeat. Something is strange. The boy's aura is massive and noticeable now, but it was barely detectable before. Is it because he's still a child? Before Ryujin can reason it through, his brown-haired partner with the white cap approaches with a smirk. Ryujin's face goes flat and cold. His next words cut through everything. You are all in danger now. Ryujin tries to calm the boy and the boy's expression shifts. Eye patch. Manic grin. Something cracks open in him and he insists desperately that they have to believe him. Then the shadows swallow his face entirely, only those yellow eyes burning through the dark as he delivers his warning. Nuna is coming for their heads. And in the same breath, a new figure appears, light-haired, purple-eyed, staff raised, expression carved from stone. The brown-haired man with the glowing blue mark on his cheek presses himself against the wall. He has to get out of the way. Blue energy crackles through his hands. His enemy is invisible. He can't locate them. His palms come together in a thunderous clap and he makes the only decision left to him. If he can't see where they are, he'll destroy everything. Every centimeter of space around him. All of it. Blue energy erupts in a web of brilliant, intersecting lines, a sustained assault that tears through the air in every direction. The white-haired figure with purple eyes looks up just in time to see it coming. A silhouette falls, struck, tumbling downward with a distant boom. White leaf-like shapes entangled with chains unravel and dissolve, a barrier breaking, an illusion shattering. And somewhere in the aftermath, a voice cries out. What happens next is anyone's guess. The dust hasn't even settled and already civilians are screaming. Aberrants, explosion, run. The dark-haired man with glowing blue eyes surveys the wreckage he created, muttering something about trying not to cause too much damage. Whoops. His smirk is almost casual, until his gaze drops to the gray-haired woman crumpled in the debris below him. He underestimated her, badly. A young man with dark hair and blue glowing eyes sprints through the chaos, screaming out for Father Hope, frantic, desperate eyes scanning the ground. There's a body there. Someone quips that they weren't expecting an old enthusiast. But before anything else can happen, a new figure arrives, light brown hair, heavy jacket, blue scarf, and his expression shifts in an instant. 2 letters, 1 sound, SHNK. The dark-haired woman is on the ground, hunched in a pool of her own blood, but she's still breathing. The brown-haired man in the gray jacket can't believe it. His blades shattered on impact. Her essence capacity is simply monstrous. He mutters something about a sly old fox, and then a glowing blue energy spear punches clean through her. The young dark-haired man watching screams, a name broken in half before it ever leaves his mouth. The brown-haired man steps back, still processing. He hears clapping, and there's the silver-haired woman completely at ease, speaking to him like none of this is unusual. Then the realization lands like a shockwave. This man is the boy's father. The brown-haired man's face tightens. He cannot bring himself to kill a father in front of his son. He's not Juni. He still has a line. Then movement, pure explosive speed. The dark-haired man with glowing blue eyes tears through an indoor corridor, trailing brilliant blue energy behind him like a comet, blowing past a dark curly-haired woman who barely has time to flinch. He still feels Chanseyob's essence out there. He hasn't been captured. Not yet. And then, cutting through everything, a single desperate cry. Dad. Somewhere else, a different kind of violence. A silhouetted man in a dark suit staggers backward against a blinding red background, a splatter of impact blooming around him. A girl in a pale yellow dress reaches out, her expression carrying both purpose and power. And standing apart from it all, composed, unsettlingly calm, is a man in a formal suit. Collar, tie, stillness. Whatever is happening here, it is deliberate. Never again. That's the vow that burns behind his eyes, blue, fierce, absolute. The dark-haired man launches forward with a dash, blue energy cascading off his body like aftershocks. He's stronger now, faster. A flash of memory, a hand reaching, failing, and then his own hand extends, crackling with power. This time, he declares internally. This time, he'll reach them. A hand reaches through the frame, and then a blond man in a dark suit arrives like a promise-turned weapon, placing himself between a small dark-haired figure and three opponents in black. He'll save them. He'll protect them. His smile is gentle and completely terrifying. The three crows, he decides, deserve no mercy, and he means it. One decapitated, one clutching her throat, blood on the lens. A dark-haired character stares out with wide, blood-streaked eyes, shock so total it looks like a kind of death. They call out Isol's name, voice cracking with desperation. Then darkness, a hard cut, and suddenly a blond boy in a wrinkled white shirt shouts across an open sky, calling out Seiyan's name like it's the most casual thing in the world. A man in glasses and a black suit stands nearby, perfectly composed. Two completely different worlds bleeding into each other. A flashback, or perhaps a memory that the story needs us to see. A light-haired boy with golden eyes leans over a bench, curious and persistent, pestering a black-haired boy absorbed in a book. The seated boy deflects, nothing interesting. But the light-haired boy isn't buying it, and when the book goes flying, both of them startle, playful, easy. The kind of moment you only recognize as precious when it's already gone. The book, it turns out, is filled with contingency plans, written in a language the light-haired boy can't read. The dark-haired girl with glasses explains quietly, plans for when things go south. He looks at her with disbelief. She snaps her fingers and calls him optimistic. His golden eyes light up. Telekinesis, he says, suddenly piecing it together. And behind them, barely noticed, an ominous figure raises a glowing green sword. Ryuhyun walks the pier at sunset, red book in hand, cataloging the group's strengths with quiet confidence. Isol keeps spirits high. Min keeps a cool head. They each have a role. The water glows gold beneath them. Then a splash. The book has gone overboard and the mood breaks into laughter. For a moment, the weight of their world lifts entirely. Just kids on a dock at the end of the day. But Ryuhyun's eyes are calculating, even in memory. He reflects on the dark-haired woman's gift, her ability to read auras. You can conceal an aura, he thinks, but never fake one. The mismatch between words and feelings is exactly how she sees through lies, which is why she's a problem. Then his focus shifts to Isol, golden light behind his eyes, a menacing smile spreading across Ryuhyun's face. Isol will trust him, to the very end. Back to the present, or close to it. A dark-haired boy in a school tie calls out Seiyan's name with a pensive look. And there she is, Seiyan, dark-haired, sharp-eyed, red irises burning with urgency. Beside her, a curly-haired boy in a cap looks up in surprise, barely processing being addressed. But Seiyan is not here for pleasantries. Something is wrong. Her eyes know it before her mouth does. A dark-haired woman in a white cap urges retreat. There's a fight nearby and they should move fast. But the taller woman with glasses is already thinking 3 steps ahead. The aberrant Ryujin is sensing. Could be connected to the boy she found. An opportunity. Points. Credibility. Her super instinct gift will look very convincing if she plays this right. She intends to take the boy. He's an illegal aberrant after all. The conversation cuts deeper. A male character in formal attire confronts someone about why she keeps associating with a troublemaker named Yale. As a friend, he warns, that kind of company will drag her down. The boy in the green hoodie stands nearby, face shadowed, carrying the weight of someone who's used to being discussed like this. And Seiyin just doesn't respond the way anyone expects. They tell her they don't understand her. She doesn't argue. A silhouetted figure in a sharp suit asks the question directly. You want to take him from them. The short-haired character with glasses pauses. Could they be wrong? The doubt is brief, clinical, almost immediately replaced by something colder. A panoramic view of varied figures watching. A philosophical pivot. Perhaps the glasses-wearing character wonders. They're simply seeing things from a higher perspective than everyone around them. Isol begins a sentence quietly. It's okay, they say, you don't need to understand me, and then the air splits open with the sound SHLK. A head hits the floor. Blood spatter. The curly-haired character in the cap covers their mouth, horror written across their face. Isol stands in glasses, face streaked red, expression impossibly still. The cap-wearing character looks at them with a question that barely makes it out of their throat. Isol. A young boy screams as he's knocked off his feet, and a man in a dark suit goes down with him, both hitting the ground with a heavy THWMP. Something small rolls across the floor, leaving red traces behind it. The white-haired man in the dark suit watches all of it with ice-cold stillness. He steps near the curly-haired man on the ground, gaze unyielding. Then he turns and walks away, leaving a trail of sharp blue energy burning in the floor like a scar. Shoot! The young man in the black suit unleashes a streak of blue energy and the scene erupts. 3 kids caught in the crossfire, one in shorts, wide-eyed with terror, another in dark clothes gripping themselves tight, a third in a black hoodie screaming toward the chaos. Nuna. A desperate cry aimed at someone off-panel. The brick walls close in. The energy doesn't stop, and the kids don't know where to run. The dark-haired man clasps his hands together, clap, and blue energy ignites around him like a second skin. 2 words. Chanseop. Run. The boy in the yellow shirt doesn't hesitate, he bolts, shadowed figure beside him, dash echoing as they vanish. The man leaps skyward, trailing blue light. Below him, a dark-haired woman with fury burning in her red eyes lunges forward, and behind her, green energy curls around a silhouetted hand. Chanseop moves like a green blur, past the dark-haired woman in red-rimmed glasses, past every obstacle, and then his glowing green blade catches Seiyin with a tang that sends them stumbling backward. An overhead view, freefall. Then a close-up of Seiyin's eye, blue, wide, crisscrossed with red lines, raw with shock. Chanseop lands, looks down, and calls Seiyin's name like he's only just realizing what he's done. A memory twilight over water, the group standing together before everything broke apart. The dark-haired woman in red-rimmed glasses speaks quietly to the blonde man beside her. If things go horribly wrong, prioritize yourself over me. He smiles. She's their king piece. Lose her and it's over. The blonde man says he's happy to be a pawn and he means it completely. Then someone shouts hey, and the moment shatters back into urgency. Back to the present, and someone is screaming at the dark-haired figure in the suit, don't space out. A slam. An accusation, Isol is dead and it's their fault for being here. The glasses-wearing character is breaking apart, demanding to know what they do now. A dark-haired someone smirks at the chaos. But the leader's voice cuts through, quiet, steely, certain. She's the king piece. If they take her head, the game is over. A black chess pawn lies flat on a rain-slicked surface, defeated, and the dark-haired man stands over it with glowing red eyes and a grin that doesn't belong on a human face, and he sets another pawn upright. We haven't lost, he says. Not while he's still standing. Cyan energy crackles around his fingers. He promises they'll see each other again. Then snap, a burst of light, and he's gone. Chapter 85 opens with the title card cutting through streaks of green and blue energy. The new opponent. A dark-haired figure with red eyes and a white cap stands forward, expression unreadable, a single ellipsis hanging over their head like a held breath. Beside them, A sharp-featured woman with shoulder-length hair and red-rimmed glasses cuts her gaze sideways glance, with the kind of look that misses nothing. The light-haired man pushes back. The kid has family. Probably a whole family waiting for him right now. Why would anyone want to take him from them? He attempts a reassuring smile for the boy's benefit, and the boy watches him with those unsettling glowing yellow eyes, silent and unreadable. But the context is already clear. A rogue aberrant came here specifically looking for this child. Whatever he is, somebody wants him very badly. An internal debrief unfolds. Someone was watching from a distance, far enough that the main group never noticed her. She must have spotted Isol and made a calculated decision. Neutralize the closest threat to the boy first. A figure in dark blue and gray falls from above, surrounded by blue particles. The dark-haired man in the blue hoodie reflects on this grimly. He would have done exactly the same thing. The analysis continues. Why did she run in close instead of attacking from range? The theory: her gift is less effective at distance. Getting closer meant she could better protect the boy. Inside the blue-lit building, Isol stands over fallen figures while the kid kneels nearby. The dark-haired boy with yellow eyes is spinning apart, asking if he is the key to everything. Then he screams for Isol. She reaches out and pulls the blonde man away in a single sharp motion. The brown-haired man unleashes a concentrated blue energy blast, point-blank, full commitment. His opponent, a silver-haired man with a long ponytail and green eyes burning with focus, doesn't flinch. Blue projectiles strike him from every angle, ping, ting, star-bright impacts ricocheting off his frame like rain off stone. He absorbs it, all of it, and he is absolutely unmoved. Then the silver-haired man reverses the flow, converts the incoming blue into a surge of yellow-green energy with a crack that sends the brown-haired man flying backward through the courtyard. The dark-haired woman with red glasses reacts with alarm. Something's different. And the boy with glowing yellow eyes trembles. He feels it too, that shift in the air, that wrongness. He screams for Nuna, and the blue energy surges toward him. The dark-haired man with blue eyes lands hard, clap, blood already running from his nose. Chanceyab, run. The boy bolts, a yellow silhouette sprinting across a slanted rooftop surface, and the man chases, driven, bleeding, eyes shifting to yellow pupils as blue energy flares around him again. He's pushing past his limits. He knows it. He doesn't stop. The dark-haired woman with glowing teal eyes and red-framed glasses finally names what she's been watching. That's what was different. A volley of blue star-shaped projectiles launches from the light-haired man with a SHF, cutting through the air in rapid bursts. She moves instantly, green energy blazing around her forearm as she raises it to counter. The two forces haven't collided yet, but they're about to. The battlefield is a web of crossing blue and green energy. The dark-haired figure in the cap takes a hit, SHNK, red eyes blazing with pain and rage, screaming that there are too many to dodge. The woman with teal eyes and red glasses doesn't break composure. One word: Min, attack her. And Min responds, green energy exploding from his foot as he launches, then his fist driving a green blast that sends the cap-wearing opponent flying. Amidst the chaos, a dark-haired figure in a hoodie and glasses goes, still thinking. To control the energy shards, she needs to maintain concentration. That's the key. The light brown-haired young man nearby catches a shattering sound and flinches toward it. The analysis sharpens. In the previous timeline, the shards moved straight. Here, they're being directed, different, intentional, and that distinction might be the only opening they have. The dark-haired man with the eye patch and glowing blue eye draws on the smoke slowly, thinking through everything he's observed. A single shard moves faster than 9. Too many shards means fractured focus. In a different timeline, she blocked Min's attack. In this one, he cut her open. Two weaknesses crystallize. More shards equals more distraction, and breaking her concentration breaks the shards entirely. He exhales. Now they have something to work with. The brown-haired man calls his shot. She came here straight from another fight, he can tell. She's not running at full capacity. This is winnable. He surges forward with a swoosh of blue energy. then detonates upward with a boom before clashing directly with the white-haired woman in the dark suit. She meets him blade first, green energy screaming off her weapon in a WHOSH. Eyes narrowed, relentless, half-empty tank and still terrifying. Seiyin, eyes glowing blue behind red glasses, processes what just happened. She ran. Of course she ran. She was only here for the boy. The order goes out, concentrate as hard as you can. Across the scene, the man in the trench coat tells a shaken, brown-haired man to calm down. Whatever was severed is already reattaching. They lost the kid, but they're alive. And then a voice from somewhere deep and shadowed asks the question that destroys any comfort. Isn't that enough? How could this possibly be enough? The words hang in the air before the chapter title even appears. Then a brown-haired man in a suit tries to get through to Seiyin, tells her to drop the scary face, reminds her that at least they made it out alive. But Seiyin is a dark silhouette against a red world, one yellow eye burning through the dark. And she asks the question back at him like a blade. Isn't that enough? The brown-haired man faces Seiyin directly, and his voice drops. She cut your head off. He says it like he needs her to understand how serious that is. Seiyin, dark-clothed and white-collared, looks back at him with exhausted resignation. I know that. The background bleeds between deep red and cold blue, the colors of someone caught between rage and despair. She's not grieving the loss of a limb. She's grieving something that can't reattach. The dark-haired woman with teal eyes steadies herself internally. This is why she was chosen. To make the hard decisions others cannot. Then teal energy sparks unexpectedly around her hands, something activating without intent. Flashes of her team's declarations of trust, their leader, their pureblood, their king peace. She absorbs each one with a fierce, determined resolution. They trust her, or they will. Either way, she will not let them down. Of course, it's not enough. The dark-haired man drags a woman across the floor while a child watches in silence. Blue energy erupts from a brown-haired man's mouth as he vows to drag the group to level 5 if he has to. Then the white-haired man releases a circular shockwave ho-om and panic ripples outward. The dark-haired woman with teal eyes makes her call. Isol, run. Get around the corner. Call Juni. Tell her they're under attack. Now. Ping, ping. Glowing energy lines crisscross at ankle height as the teal-haired woman deflects an incoming attack with almost supernatural reflexes, her gift reading the threat before her eyes do. The light brown-haired observer watches with wide orange eyes. It's her gift talking. Right. And then the teal-haired woman turns her full focus inward, green eyes burning, and calls up yellow-green energy in both hands, driving it outward with a crack that breaks something open completely. The teal-eyed woman in the suit locks in on her priority, the boy's safety above everything. She tells the blonde with the bob cut to dash away, and urgency floods the space between them. The brown-haired boy with fear written all over his face reaches out, calling for Seiyin. But the teal-haired woman thinks clearly. She sent him away for more than one reason. She didn't want him anywhere near what she was about to do. The internal strategy session replays. Taking the boy hostage was the first idea, yes. But the opponent goes for whoever is closest to him. And you can't fake an aura. If your intent to harm isn't real, the red-haired woman with the glowing blue eyes will know it instantly. A blonde man holds the boy in the strategy visualization, desperately trying to bluff, and the narration is unforgiving. Isol couldn't do it, and Ryujin would refuse. So only one person is suited for what comes next. The dark-haired boy in beige shorts gasps WAH as a sharp-featured woman in a black suit with a striking red collar grips him tightly. The pale-haired man in the dark suit watches from behind, radiating quiet menace. And Officer Juni Chang stands apart from it all, long hair, tailored suit, absolute composure, delivering one last instruction to Seiyin before the plan goes into motion. A black knife snaps into frame and the background bleeds red. The dark-haired woman with green eyes says it plainly. It can't be faked. She's being pulled from multiple directions, hands gripping her arms and shoulders, but her voice stays level. Because faking this, pretending to harm the boy without meaning it, would be a death sentence. The opponent would know. She would kill instantly. And so the fear has to be real. The boy in the blue hoodie looks up with barely restrained anger. "What do you think you're doing?" A silhouetted figure answers with a single word, "Right." And then the voice behind it all begins to speak calmly, almost pleasantly, about the first time she tried to kill someone. If she did it once, she explains, she can do it again and again and again. As long as she's alive, she can do exactly what she wants. The boy is the target, and she means every word. The small, dark-haired boy sweats and trembles, green-tinged skin betraying what's happening inside him. He's being held by a formal, stone-faced figure, and as his surroundings darken around the edges, something in him gives way to pure animal terror. He can't breathe. He's drowning, he says. He calls for Nane, voice breaking, throat closing, and the darkness keeps pressing in from every direction. And then that's enough. Seiyan's silhouette raises one hand, calm, final. The dark-haired boy in the beige cap, red eyes blazing, pointing directly at Seiyan, demands they step away from the child. His voice is fury shaped into a single command. Seiyan's green eyes reveal themselves behind the red-rimmed glasses, and a hand reaches toward their face. The scene collapses into darkness. What happens inside that darkness, and whether Seiyan obeys, we don't yet know. A smoke-wreathed figure with pale hair and round red glasses leans forward, and the words land like a verdict. "Your parents were sea wolves. They tell Yesalna, which means she's one of them. And they take care of their own." The cigarette glows in the dim room as the offer hangs in the air, conditional, dangerous, and impossible to ignore. The sea wolves offer Yesalna their wing, protection, legacy power, but she hesitates. Her loyalty belongs to the Concordat, the ones who saved her life. Ms. Hio, head of Nest 5C, listens with tired eyes and a firm jaw, then sighs, as if she already knew the answer. Stay with them, she offers, if a quiet life in hiding is what Yesal wants. A moment of stillness. The room holds its breath between offers and answers, between loyalty sworn and loyalty tested. Whatever passes between these walls in this quiet beat, it settles something, or breaks it. The weight of the choice ahead presses down on everything, silent and absolute. Deep in the blue shadows, a figure with glowing red eyes looms over a girl tied to a chair, green dress, long brown hair, terror written across her face. The offer is simple and monstrous. Accept their guidance, leave immediately, and never return to this nest again. On the floor nearby, someone in a red hoodie watches with wide, anxious eyes. Almost none of them get out. Almost. Two silhouetted hands reach toward a blue glow, and then fury erupts. The scene tears open to reveal the Marengo, a sea wolf smuggling ship cutting through green-lit waters. Below deck, a man in a black suit grabs another by the lapel, his rage crackling like a yellow aura around his skull. The aberrant core raided a Concordat nest in the 5th Ward. Which one? Deseok Kim's voice shakes as he corrects the word raided. It wasn't a raid, it was obliteration. A level 9 operative, one of the Jeon twins, and the nest destroyed. Was Nest SC? The unnamed dark-haired figure beside him goes quiet. There was a kid there, they admit softly. Someone they hadn't been able to see since joining the Sea Wolves. Someone they'd hoped to see again. The ship's interior grows heavier with every word. If one of the twins was responsible, no survivors. None. A man with messy dark hair apologizes quietly, addressing the captain by a name that almost slips out before he catches himself. And the mysterious woman in the dark turtleneck, her hands just slightly too long, speaks from a desolate emptiness. They'll have to wait. Weidner must deactivate the circle of secrecy first. The captain breaks. Tears streak down his face in the dim light, and the man with glasses watches, not with contempt but with something close to grief. He remarks quietly that he keeps forgetting how young they all are. He envies their power sometimes, but the bleak life that comes with it, he could never handle that. He places a hand on the captain's shoulder. "These things happen," he says. "It isn't your fault." The captain wipes his tears, and what replaces them is something colder. He knows exactly whose fault it is. The aberrant core, those stinking crows. How could traitors kill their own kind without mercy? His thoughts flash to a photo. young aberrant smiling, a dark-haired kid in a red hoodie grinning with a slingshot. And then the memory turns dark, two shadowy adults, one pointing, the other holding a crying, light-haired child. The name he whispers is Ryujin. A boy with dark, tousled hair and glasses stares down the smirking man in the blue tie, calling him exactly what he is, a traitor. The smirking man isn't rattled. He just pivots, sneering about what Isol could possibly see in someone who's nothing but Saiyan's attack dog. Then a man in a black suit steps forward, green energy glowing from his outstretched hand, and calls out a single name, Min. The confrontation reaches a razor's edge. The figure in the baseball cap calls them all scum, herself included, while the emotionally detached character with mismatched eyes declares their intent to kill is absolutely real. They hold a child. They speak of reasons that others don't understand, of a cure they believe in so completely they'd press a weapon into their own hand. Then, a single quiet pop, and a looming shadow. The dark-haired man with glasses calls out Ryujin, and the flashback crashes in like a wave. Him shielding a smaller figure from blue energy projectiles, his own green energy deflecting them with a metallic clang. Min, white-haired and bleeding through his suit, shouting his name in despair. Then the three of them running through city streets, desperate and barely together. His face in close-up, wide-eyed, frantic, the face of someone who's already lost too much. Ryujin stands amid falling debris, a power radiating off him so immense it warps the air itself. The brown-haired man in the blue hoodie looks up, barely believing his eyes. Could that actually be Ryujin among the crows? He starts to call out, and then Ryujin cries out in agony. Blue energy erupts around him, and behind him stands a dark-haired figure with glasses and a grin far too wide. One word, Heyo. The brown-haired man barely gets Ryujin's name out before the world closes in on him. Blue energy tendrils snake around his body, locking him in place as the captain's face twists into something unrecognizable, dark eyes, wide smile, absolute intent. He snares the brown-haired man completely and pulls him close with a chilling, almost cheerful greeting. Then the panel splits into dark streaking lines. Impact. Silence. Chapter 88. Impermanent. The brown-haired man surges upward in a spiral of blue energy, and beside him a dark-haired woman with an eye patch and a yellow tie floats with total confidence, one finger pointed skyward. Then, an explosion rips through the space behind them. Debris cascades into open air, and a blonde-haired man far below flinches as chunks of wreckage rain down against a clear blue sky. Ryujin falls through open sky, blue energy ribbons coiling around him like living things as his eyes burn electric blue. The strain on his face is total, the aura around him blazing orange gold even as something massive and metallic disintegrates behind him in a cascade of glowing rubble. The blue tendrils swallow the debris whole. The impact below sends shockwaves in every direction. A boom. Ryujin is launched skyward in a spray of debris, suspended for one breathless second, and then gravity reclaims him. The light-haired man watches with glowing yellow eyes in shock. The dark-haired man with glasses fixes his gaze, his left eye flaring green with radiating red lines. The dark-haired woman in pigtails points upward as Ryujin's descent ends in a brutal, shuddering thud that sends blue energy rippling across the ground. Cracks spiderweb through the air as the brown-haired man with the eye patch unleashes his fury, so F***Sea King annoying, driving a concentrated burst of blue energy downward with a single snap. Two figures drop, the dark-haired man and the white-haired man in suits, both sent sprawling by the concussive wave. The white-haired man clutches his chest as blue energy fragments detonate across his ribs. Amid the chaos and swirling shadow, a dark-haired woman wraps her arms around a small, crying child, shielding him from everything closing in around them. Nearby, the brown-haired man moves with surgical precision, blue energy surging from his hands in the form of essence ribbons. They snap tight around Level 7 Officer Juni Chang with a yank, lifting him off the ground, locking him in place, suspending him between fighting and falling. The dark-haired woman with pointed ears and sunglasses doesn't waste emotion. She reels an enemy in with blue ribbon, lets the momentum build, then releases at exactly the right moment, sending him crashing into a brick wall with a thunderous boom. She's already running forward before the echo fades. A swarm of blue energy follows in her wake like a living thing. Min moves with calculated precision, her inner voice piecing together the advantage, her knowledge of the enemy's weaknesses combined with Juni's gift. The blonde agent gives her a direct order, take the boy, don't let him go no matter what. Min's expression tightens into something cold and focused beneath her cap and glasses. She raises her hand, fingers arranged in the shape of a gun, and the aura that pours off her. This is the first time anyone's seen her make that gesture. Against a blood-red backdrop, Min's thoughts burn with something she can't quite name. Ryujin was going to use her secret gift, the one she'd kept hidden from everyone, including Min, against her. And the worst part, Min almost can't believe she's surprised. She thinks back to a bathroom, the two of them brushing teeth side by side. She thought they were closer than this. Now she understands exactly what it takes to trigger Ryujin's gift. Seiyin arrives in a black suit with twin ponytails and the confidence of someone who planned for this, but Jumi immediately fixates on the wrong detail. Why is she wearing a blue tie? Before Jumi can finish her warning, Seiyin cuts her off with a smack straight across the face. Jumi reels, furious and disbelieving. Weren't you supposed to be smart? But Seiyin is already moving. A shadowy figure tears into the glasses-wearing character without mercy. You're not strong enough, stop being overconfident, run if you see any aberrant. But the character doesn't flinch. They remove their glasses, red lines bloom across their face, a blue eye glows underneath, and explain that their instinct gift told them to fight, guiding them to the best possible outcome. The shadow cuts them off. Surviving one fight was luck. One mistake and people die. The dark-haired woman with the eye patch snarls at a dumb F***CK who doesn't understand the weight of death. When someone on your team dies, that's it, no coming back. The man in the suit answers with something that makes her jaw tighten. Wounds heal, but death is permanent. He glances down at a figure collapsed on the wet pavement. Then he smirks. Maybe for you, he says softly. And in that smirk is the most chilling thing said all chapter. A sudden breath of light cuts through the darkness. A girl in a red cape bursts in with a sword, declaring she's here to rescue someone, and Princess Yesao, glowing crown and white gown, responds with pure joy. A tiny green dragon creature watches from the floor. The rescued princess offers her thanks, warm and genuine, while the girl in the cape pats her head gently and promises she's going to miss her lots. Ryujin, younger here, softer, stands in a warmly lit room with a piano behind her, pressing her forehead gently as she meets the eyes of the woman in the white gown and crown. The woman asks why she has to leave so fast. Can't she stay just one more day? Ryujin smiles barely, briefly. And then a shadow falls. Something dark whispers at the edge of the scene. Her mother will return. Glowing red eyes, fangs. A voice like a warning, if you leave me, you'll never come back. Kaijin pulls away in a red cloak, dismissive and sharp, HMPH, until Princess Essen grabs their attention with a reminder that essence is off the table here. Kaijin spins around with a manic grin and a sword hilt, eyes blazing, making an impossible declaration. I'm coming to find you. It's a knight's promise. A bright, joyful okay. And then blue energy swirls into a knotted, churning mass as a disembodied voice calls out, "Come find me." A hand in a dark sleeve reaches upward through the surge with a SWSH and vanishes. The scene dissolves into white streaking lines. And a new figure steps forward, reddish-pink pigtails, headphones, eye patch, punk accessories. Chapter 89, The Promise. The eye-patched woman isn't finished. She drives her point home about the permanence of death. When a teammate is gone, they're gone, and then something shifts. A smirk. From the man on the ground, still down, still beaten. Her eyes widen. Did this B***TCH just smirk at me? The fury in her voice is immediate. She turns to the blue-haired woman with green eyes and gives her a direct order. Run back to HQ. Take your boy with you. Juni pushes back. She knows the enemy's powers, their weaknesses. She can help if they work together. The figure with long dark hair and glasses cuts her off with something more terrifying than a threat. One more word, they swear to God they'll photograph her tie. That's all she cares about, right? Min staggers nearby, assuring the others she'll be fine in a moment. And then a pale figure in a light suit steps forward, calm and certain. I'll give you guys a boost. The woman with dark purple hair and pigtails makes her move, and 4 men in suits go airborne at once, snagged by blue energy strands that tangle and lift them without warning. They shout in pure shock, struggling uselessly against the ribbons. And caught in the same web, a dark-haired man in a blue hoodie and brown jacket gapes upward, his eyes glowing blue as the horror sets in. There's a real chance that girl is Ryujin Kang. She holds them all in place with terrifying precision, blue strands locked and taut. One of the suspended men shouts her name in a panic. The dark-haired man with glasses watches her control and quietly calculates she's no low-rank officer, the way she commands her gift and commands attention, and revealing he knows her could put her in danger. Nearby, a young boy clings to one of the suits and screams for Nuna to help him. The blond man at the edge of the panel grins like someone who's enjoying this far too much. Yesalna is being pulled away, blue energy lines dragging him through space, and he shouts against it with everything he has. His name, his blue eyes blazing, his voice carrying across the void. I swear on that name I'll come find you. The curly dark-haired figure floating nearby says his name quietly, almost like a question. Yesalna is already gone, swallowed by blue light, and the promise echoes behind him. A knight's promise. A red-pupiled eye snaps wide with shock. Yeso cries out a name mid-fall, dark suit whipping around them as they plummet through open air surrounded by red and blue energy. The camera pulls back to the city below, enormous and indifferent. And then from above, a massive blue wave of energy booms downward, 2 tiny silhouettes falling with it toward the rooftops far beneath. Blue energy swirls around the figure in the dark hooded jacket, and those eyes glow light blue, clear and absolute with conviction. The declaration rings out through the void, I'll come find you. It's a knight's promise. Then a single extreme close-up, an eye, red pupil, a complex dark iris, reacting to those words with the most stunned, wordless expression in the chapter. The kind of expression that says everything has just changed. Yesio screams as blue energy engulfs her completely. Far below, the city stretches out in everyday oblivion, blue particles beginning to drift down like falling stars. Then the boom hits. Blue tendrils tear through a tall city building with devastating force. 2 dark figures fall from the sky amid the cascade of blue, and the skyline absorbs the violence like it's seen it all before. Chapter 90, First-Person Shooters. Blue energy streaks the title card, and the city reappears beneath a sky already dusted with glowing blue particles. A dark, curly-haired man in a suit and hat drops through the air with quiet determination, blue specks surrounding him like a constellation. 2 new forces enter, one with a golden crown and a teal dress, fingers trailing blue energy with a gentle smile, the other blazing red-haired, fierce-eyed, ready for something. The red-haired figure burns with the conviction of a knight's promise, but elsewhere a figure in a suit is falling through darkness, and the truth descends alongside them. Yesio's parents were killed by the aberrant core, and now, after 10 years of silence, he showed up in front of her for the first time, wearing their uniform. He looks downward. He thinks he's going to be sick. Ryujin hits the ground with a THMP and a chorus of "Whoa, whoa, whoa," tumbling across a grassy outdoor space and landing doubled over, making sounds that are distinctly not the sounds of someone who is fine. The dark-haired woman with glasses watches with one hand on her hip, calling his name carefully. Ryujin insists he's okay. It's just, he explains, motion sickness. From getting tossed. Ryujin faces a shadowed figure against a blood-stained backdrop, and the exchange is quiet but lethal. 2 can play this game, the figure says. And then the truth, right now your aura is so loud even I can feel it, and it's telling me you're lying. Another voice cuts across the tension. Everything would have gone smoothly if Ryujin and Juni had just cooperated. A third, Move away from him, Basin. Now. Floating in a stark blue void threaded with red ribbons, Juni closes her eyes and takes herself apart piece by piece. All those points, all that careful analysis of the enemy's gift gone, because of someone else, but she stops herself. To blame others is to hinder self-improvement. The real failure was hers. She didn't build enough trust in Ryujin. She didn't anticipate the reaction. And that, she admits with a sharp exhale, is on her. Seiyin stands alone, red book in hand, red cap pulled low. My fault again. My plan was flawed. I need to be better. The memory cuts back. Yesio calling out to her in the hall, trying to say something, anything, and Seiyin walking away. Not now. She means it so completely that her blue eye burns behind her pink-framed glasses when she says it again. Then she's gone over the rooftop edge, scaling down the building's face before Yesio can finish a single word. Min leaps first, landing in the urban gap with practiced ease, and Seiyin drops right behind her. Hey, do you even know the way back to HQ? Min keeps moving, calm and fluid across the rooftop gaps. Then a young dark-haired boy climbs onto his back, and Min's expression breaks just slightly into something almost warm. Hold on tight, kid. Looks like we have a little more falling to do. The young boy's yellow eye gives him away. He's petrified, and Min can see it. Seiyin reflects on the chaos he'd been lost in. Min getting stabbed, the fracturing plan, the desperate scramble. But before he arrived on scene, he felt something radiating off Seiyin, something that made every instinct in him recoil, something horrifying. He carries the child. He wonders still if that was the right call. A curly-haired boy in blue and white sighs hard. Seiyin only listens to her superiors, and she doesn't see any of them as superior to her. Thank God for Juni. Nearby, a figure slumps against a blood-soaked wall, barely upright. An exhausted man in a dark hoodie breathes in ragged huffs, his chest heaving. Dead tired, he admits, but there's one more effort left in him. A tall man in a dark suit and sunglasses exhales, life sucks, huh? The shorter man in the hoodie isn't sympathetic. If you didn't want to fight, don't join the Corps. But the suited man pushes back further, peeling away the shorter man's disguise. You're a red tie. Those young crows, he says, they're stupid kids who made a bad decision. But you've been a full officer for years. You've had years to escape. So why are you still here? Blue energy pulses and shapes into a silhouette. Then a body emerges from it piece by piece. Legs first, then arms, then torso, each appearing with a soft SHF sound. Long dark brown hair, a dark suit, glowing eyes. Blood spatters across the shirt and tie as the figure finishes forming and then stands there completely assembled, surrounded by fading blue tendrils, announcing their presence with total sincerity. Here I am. The reason? A peace card for online gambling. Chapter 91, Deal with the Devil. Seiyin is already running, sprinting through a narrow city alleyway past orange traffic cones, dark suit and blue tie, voice tight with urgency. Ryujin. She screams the name and questions pile up internally. Where is she going? This isn't the way back to HQ. Are Min and Isol even following? She glances back. Min is there, ambling behind her, calmly scrolling his phone. Crash, Ryujin goes down hard, hitting the ground with an owl, and a man in a brown coat tears into them immediately. Watch where you're going. Ryujin scrambles up, panting, admitting the terrible truth. Without essence, they're barely functioning. A worried young man nearby clocks Seiyin's suit and something shifts in his eyes. Tension spikes. Seiyin is told to leave. Fast, because danger isn't finished with them yet. Last time, chaos swallowed the city whole, and now, in its wake, something quieter takes hold. A girl in formal attire brushes dust off her blazer and asks if Yil is okay. A boy with light brown hair holds a corn dog and reminisces, his voice soft with nostalgia. Seiyin, dark-haired and hooded in blue, cuts through the mood with playful defiance, telling someone to sit down. One moment grief. The next, the satisfying crunch of a corn dog. But the lightness doesn't last. The moment Seiyin thinks of Yil, something cracks open inside her chest. She floats through an abstract dark void, grief, yes, but worse than grief. A crushing isolation. The quiet, terrifying fear that Yil was the only person who truly understood her. And now that person is gone. She runs through a city street, expression contorted in pain, and a hand reaches for her. She yanks her blue tie so hard it makes a sound. Then freefall. Seiyin plummets down the side of a tall building, TMP sounds punching through the air as she tumbles. She recovers agitated, her chest briefly glowing where she was struck. Rage takes over. She curses internally, wrestling with herself, telling herself she has no choice. And then an unseen hand seizes her, pulling tight, and a voice demands her gift. Seiyin's response is barely a whisper, "Help me." Seiyin pivots fast, cutting straight to business. She asks Jun point-blank if given a goal, can he sense what he needs to do next. Jun grits his teeth, reluctantly confirming it. Then Seiyin points to the falling woman from before. She knows her. She was her friend. Jun's eyes fill with tears, and just like that, desperation transforms into something close to fury. He'll use his gift. He'll go along with her dumb plans. He just needs one thing in return. Seiyin presses her advantage, telling Jun he has nothing to lose by helping. Jun doesn't see it that way. Helping someone who has murdered people, that's not helping, that's becoming a criminal. He retorts with real venom. But even as he argues, he admits he can still feel their auras. Yesol's condition is getting worse by the second. And that urgency is more persuasive than any argument Seiyin could make. A car levitates, wrapped in swirling blue energy. Above it, Seiyin floats in the same luminous current, looking down with calm authority. Below, a young man with dark curly hair clutches his chest and pleads, this woman is not some lowlife who deserves to be killed. He knows her, trust him. A long silence. A shadowy figure responds with a slow, uncertain well. And the curly-haired boy's face is a map of pain, torn between hope and dread. A young man with long black hair and rectangular glasses rubs the back of his neck, wrestling with the deal being proposed. He spells out the absurdity. Helping a murderer escape is not a small thing. Not the way he sees the world. A figure in a baseball cap lays out the logic carefully. Discreet help, clean exit, Jun stays out of it. The young man raises a hand in disdain, asking plainly if anyone here actually thinks he's a cop. A chibi version of Seiyin imagines the plan succeeding, thanking her kind savior with cartoon delight. Then the narration pivots hard. Ryujin is stubborn, arrogant, mean, and close-minded, but she is definitely not a liar. Back in reality, Seiyin is on her knees on a gray floor, pleading up at Ryujin's impassive silhouette, telling her she's the only one left. Ryujin stares down, unmoved. And Seiyin's internal voice wonders, not for the first time, why Ryujin always looks like nothing in the world can touch her. Ryujin leans over the crouching figure below her, and there is something almost sadistic in her smile. Desperation looks this good on you, she says, and she'll help on one condition. Don't question anything. Follow her orders exactly. A light brown-haired man nearby sweats through his shirt, recalling a gray-haired man who bumped into him earlier. Then Ryujin's eyes glow green, sharp and predatory, her smile turning menacing. First things first, she announces. They're going to track him down. The scene cuts to a completely different world, a bright classroom. 3 words on the board: escape, hide, report. A cheerful teacher with dark hair and glasses asks the class what they mean. A boy with a bandage on his elbow shoots his hand up. When aberrants attack, you escape. A dark-haired girl with a star hair clip raises hers next. If you can't escape, you hide. The lesson feels almost mundane, but in a world where aberrants are real, it's anything but. A girl in red-framed glasses confidently completes the sequence. After escaping or hiding, you report it. The teacher praises her students by name, warmth filling the room. Then a hand presses a button on a black remote with a clean BIP sound, demonstrating the Watchdog app. The teacher explains, wherever aberrant activity is reported, a red dot appears on the map for everyone to see. It's a system built on collective awareness, a city-wide web of shared fear and shared protection. An overhead map animation shows clusters of orange-red dots spreading across gray buildings. The more reports cluster in one area, the more likely a real attack is happening. A confirmed attack glows as a single bright red dot, and those, the narration warns, must be taken very seriously. Then a woman with light green hair and glasses appears, visibly shaken, holding her phone. She recounts the day she and her son were caught in an attack, people running in every direction, and her son vanishing in the chaos. The blonde woman continues. She reported her missing son, Jayuhan Park, through Watchdog, and his location appeared on the map. A kind jogger, muscular and in a white tank top, found her small dark-haired boy and brought him back safely. She beams at the memory. Then the scene shifts, same woman, now illuminated only by the green glow of her phone, recording in real time. The final frame blares a 3-word command: escape, hide, report. Not theory anymore, practice. Back in the classroom, the teacher is almost cheerful about it. Running and hiding is easy, she says. You're only trying to save yourself. A student in a blue jacket counters that reporting saves other people. And somewhere in the back, a dark-haired student in a yellow top is quietly coming undone. Noble, selfless, the right thing to do. She scrawls a frantic red scribble across her notepad, the internal voice repeating it like a mantra. Gotta report. Gotta report. A young woman with dark hair and glasses grips a pen over a red-lit surface, expression locked in barely contained fear. Then a title card crashes in. Hand Jumper. Chapter 92, The Impossible Task. Moments later, a frantic brown-haired woman clings to a bearded man and screams that they're calling the cops. Her rage is real. Her fear is real. And then a short-haired woman in a dark suit and light blue tie looks up calmly from her smartphone and delivers the punchline. They are the cops. Technically speaking. The dark-haired woman crouches beside a man in a red jacket lying on the ground, phone raised. She needs his face to log in, and she instructs him to hold still. A soft click and she has it. Standing nearby, another character watches with barely restrained disbelief, reminding her that they weren't supposed to question anything. But still asks, is she allowed to know why she just knocked the stuffing out of a random stranger? The mood teeters between crisis and dark comedy. The woman with long black hair and glasses stands with arms crossed, explaining everything with the casual efficiency of someone who's done this 100 times. She hacked a stranger's phone to access the Watchdog app. Also, the man had no manners. Behind her, a woman in a green cap smirks in pure amusement. Then the narration turns inward. She's learned to live with this, knowing that none of it is permanent. A frightened young man in a dirty blue shirt begs her to stop, offering to talk. She raises a fist. Be more specific. The man in the blue shirt screams he doesn't know anything more. But Ryujin's right eye glows blue behind her glasses, and a turquoise energy string snaps from her fingertips with a sound like cracking bone. She winces, cursing about her tooth. He curses back, calling her every name he can think of through the pain. She doesn't blink. She stares straight at him and asks if he really thinks she's intimidated by aberrant thugs. The answer is written all over her glowing eye. The man stumbles back, startled by the sudden attack, barely manages a WHA before Ryujin is already moving past him. She tells someone named Lee they're in the wrong district. She knows exactly where to hit next. Elsewhere, a figure crouched near a road calls out to Ryujin, Isil and Min by name, urgency radiating from every syllable. The turquoise energy string extends from her finger once more. Then a sharp, decisive snap, and the scene moves forward. A young man with curly brown hair and a cap stands in a suit against a city skyline at dusk, contemplative. A taller man in a formal suit notices him stop and asks why. The curly-haired boy explains his ability shifts when circumstances change, sensing a better path forward. He used to be someone else. He isn't anymore. His path just showed him another direction. He turns toward a dark alley, voice quiet but certain. The taller man watches him go, something unspoken hanging between them. He's running now, sprinting through a corridor with purpose, the impossible request locked in his mind. Save Yesalna. Without being seen, he thinks he might actually be able to swing it. Ahead, a woman in a fitted brown suit with long hair confirms the area around Yesal's last known location has been evacuated. Good. She points out a discount clothing store nearby. Whatever comes next, it starts there. The dark-haired woman in the suit stares at the young man in the cap like he's lost his mind. He wants to steal clothes from a shop, Right now. He shrugs. He's a bit worried about security cameras, but honestly, a tiny old place like this probably has awful surveillance. He tells her to wait. Then the narration cuts to something bigger, a stark drawing of one figure supporting three others, and the words "officers exist to serve society. We must always put civilian lives above our own." The irony hangs heavy. A red stick figure strolls casually over collapsed outlines, a rogue aberrant, the narration explains, not bound by rules, unconcerned with collateral damage. Regular people who don't escape simply get in the way, escape, hide, report. The dark-haired woman with glasses lets that sink in, and then the realization hits. That's the solution. She'll use the Watchdog app to locate the hostages and the soul. It won't be easy, but when has anything in this story ever been easy? Two figures slow to a halt, a white-haired man in a dark suit catching his breath, a woman with light brown hair expressing her nerves. They're not catching up with Seiyin and Ryujin, not at this pace. Min is doubled over, panting. But when the woman confesses she's anxious that the others haven't checked in, he tells her to trust her mother. His voice is calm, steadying. He wouldn't worry about them. Whether that's confidence or something more complicated, it's hard to tell. A blond boy in a suit leans on his hands with a playful expression. Yeah, let's keep going. He wonders privately if Min's faith in Seiyin is genuine trust, or something else entirely. Then the mood shifts. A girl in an oversized purple sweater strikes a confident pose, magical sparkles and all, asking if she still looks like Seiyin Lee. The answer is a flat no. She insists her new look is perfect. The girl beside her agrees enthusiastically. Inside a disaster, somehow levity. A young woman with curly dark hair crosses her arms and announces that she looks absolutely ridiculous. The man beside her in sunglasses isn't disagreeing, he just wants everyone to hurry up. Someone points out that the sunglasses look suspicious. The man snaps back that it's not his fault he inherited Lucy's eyes. A vintage projection flickers behind them. Lucy, the famous actress, whose captivating ringed eyes defined her image. And now, those very eyes are a liability, a dead giveaway. Ryuji looks anxious as the group discusses the significance of ringed eyes. Not everyone who has them is an aberrant, but it does mean there's a godling somewhere deep in the bloodline. A shadowy figure with glowing green eyes materializes beside them, otherworldly and still. The confident woman with a bob haircut smirks, clarifying. These disguises aren't for Juni. They're for the civilians. Ryuji's expression shifts, the gravity of the deception settling into his bones like cold water. The curly-haired woman in the dark dress stops everything with a single wait. She's trying to follow the logic. Jun can't hurt the chives without consequences. That much is certain. But now the plan involves sending dangerous people into danger. That's the plan. The woman with dark hair and glasses smiles that careful, measured smile and lays it out. Yesal cannot hurt anyone without drawing the wrath of every authority in the city. Another character interjects. Yesal isn't just a criminal. She's a great person. The tension doesn't resolve, it deepens. The woman with dark wavy hair and glasses smirks, and someone else's internal voice calls her exactly what she is. This evil bitch. The short-haired woman in the polka-dotted top processes it slowly. The smirking woman doesn't actually believe what she's saying. She built this plan fully expecting Yesal to hurt someone in the process. But calling her out on it means admitting something uncomfortable, that she doesn't have complete, unconditional trust in Yesal either. And the Yesal she knew would never willingly kill an innocent. Two boys younger, laughing conspiratorially in a brightly lit memory, hold up a finger between them, pleased with some scheme only they understand. A whole decade has passed since then. They're not naive little kids anymore. Now a green-haired woman stares quietly, asking herself whether that version of Yesal still exists, whether the world has stripped her of everything good. Has she become someone else? Someone like Seiyin Lee? The final word hits the scene like a slap. Wait. And a young girl, eyes wide and terrified, is bound and threatened with a weapon. One eye, that's all we see of her, dark, behind glass, processing a terrible realization. Is that what this is about? Giving Yesal a hostage, placing her in the exact same impossible position as Seiyin, forced to demonstrate an intent to murder. The smiling woman in the polka-dotted sweater walks into frame carrying her tote bag, grinning with something vicious behind her eyes. "See," she says, "your friend is no better than I am. Do you finally get it?" The dark-haired woman with glasses smiles, and internally she's praising Se-in Lee's plan as the most perfectly despicable thing she's ever witnessed. Outside, on a busy urban street, two men huddle in a building with a checkered floor, one praying desperately for Neon's safety while the other tells him to shut up and wait for police clearance. Then, creak, slam, a door flies open. A woman in a light blue polka-dot sweater rushes in, urgently calling for Mr. Back. A middle-aged man in a brown jacket confirms he is Manhwa Back, and yes, he's been looking for his daughter Neon. The dark-haired woman with glasses kneels beside him with her phone raised. She needs his face to log in. Hold still. A soft ding and it's done. The phone screen populates with information. Manhwa Back, age 54, looking for Neon Back, age 12. And then a message bubble appears beneath it. "Neon sent me looking for you." Somewhere on a street nearby, a woman in a polka-dotted blouse and yellow hair ribbon is frantically pleading, "Please follow me." But the person she needs to move is 12 years old and in the middle of the most important argument of her life. The brown-haired girl in a yellow shirt is crying hysterically, refusing to budge. Her father is screaming back that nobody needs a 50,000 won keychain. She screams louder that Yoonbin brought hers to school yesterday. Around them, danger is closing in. Neither of them knows it yet. Neon, short dark hair, yellow hoodie, 12 years old, looks up at her stocky father with hopeful eyes, announcing she's going to check out the blind box shop. He agrees, distracted by an incoming call. He takes it. He ends it with a BIP, and then something in his expression changes completely. He starts running at full speed, yelling one thing at the top of his lungs, "Anything for my princess." He bursts into the shop thinking about an overpriced keychain called rabies buns. A father's love is a specific kind of madness. Inside the shop, Neon's father holds up his phone asking about Rabubus, and the employee in a black mask begins to tell him they don't carry it. Then the building shakes. A doom reverberates through the walls and she exclaims in alarm. He stares around in horror, thinking earthquake. His phone starts going off, ding ding ding, the watchdog app lighting up like a warning system at the end of the world. He runs outside. Neon isn't there. He's screaming her name into chaos. Half an hour into lockdown, Neon's father is unraveling. He demands to know why no one has called him, why he's standing here, who this woman is. The dark-haired woman with her hair in a bun and a light blue polka-dot dress tries to calm him down. She'll explain everything. Aberrants blew up a building. People ran. In the confusion, she found a small blonde child pinned under rubble, crying in the wreckage. She describes it the way survivors describe things they can't unsee. She couldn't lift the debris. She tried, she felt terrible, but the rubble was too heavy and the fighting kept getting worse. As she left, the girl told her name, Neon Back, and she asked her to find her Daeon Manhwa Back. The man in the teal shirt processes this slowly, then with surging intensity. He's grateful for the watchdog post that connected them, but right now, gratitude is the last thing on his face. Right now his face says only one thing: he needs to find his princess. A young woman in a light purple blouse is already running the numbers. "Ambulance," she says. "They need to call one immediately." The man beside her confirms he already did. The answer they got back: no paramedics, no police, no anybody until the fighting stops. That's how dangerous aberrants are. He describes a young girl buried under rubble. She won't last long enough. Then the woman in the polka-dotted sweater smirks, calm as a stone in still water. "Perfect," she says. And the pieces of a plan snap together. He tells himself he might actually pull this off. A dark-haired young man in a dark blue hoodie stands beneath an overturned car, levitating in purple-blue energy, looking up with eyes locked and jaw set. The VROOMP of massive force, blue streaks and debris. He falls through the air surrounded by burning energy, and then extends his right hand downward with total deliberate focus. He might really save that murderer's life. The thought itself seems to shock even him. Crash, something massive hits ground nearby, and Juni Chang, long brown hair and a sharp dark outfit, teases the young man immediately. Did he just wreck that car? He grins back, winks, tells her no, she did. She points out he's touching on a good point though, and her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. Blue energy trails linger around him like smoke after a fire. There's warmth in their banter, but underneath it, consequences are already forming. He launches off a car as electric blue energy tears it apart with a crack, and his mind is already running the aftermath. The core will absolutely lose it over the collateral damage. He lands with a SHWAK and keeps moving, but the real problem crystallizes in his head. If he can't smash this woman against cars and buildings, this is a genuinely bad matchup. An image of the dark-haired woman in the suit flickers in his mind, blue energy, controlled, cutting. And she's not stopping. Juni leaps and throws ribbons of blue energy at Yesal, and Yesal cuts through every single one without breaking a sweat. Juni grits her teeth. She'd read the file. She knew Yesal's greatest strength was her essence capacity, massive, nearly unmatched. Even after fighting Cell 4, Yesal should still have reserves that dwarf Juni's. But now, watching her from a distance with an eye patch and a gray jacket, Juni frowns. Yesal's aura feels thin. Wrong. Why doesn't she seem tired? The narration reveals what Juni doesn't know. This is Yesal's third fight. And in her first match, she burned through her essence recklessly just to end it as fast as possible. Now she's running on fumes. Olive green jacket, 2 short blades slicing through ribbon after ribbon, but her breathing is labored and her form is straining. Juni watches her carefully, reading the pauses, the careful economy of movement. Something is off. She asks Yesal directly, "Why aren't you attacking me?" A flash of dark blue hoodie and then the other fighter appears. Long dark blue hair, dark green plaid suit, yellow eyes that glow like danger signs. She floats in a blue-tinged dark space looking down at him and says, whatever he's planning, she doesn't want to find out. The young man's resolve tightens into a single point of focus. Let's end this, he thinks. With one blow, the woman reaches toward him and the air between them crackles with something final. Title card, Hand Jumper, Chapter 95, Doomed. The long, dark, blue-haired woman floats in the ethereal dark, her presence announced by a deep, resonant SHAA that fills the silence. The young man with blue eyes stares up at her, sweat forming on his face, and feels it, a massive spike in aura. She's about to pulverize him. 3 defenses against an all-out attack. The first flashes on screen immediately. Run. A silhouette sprinting at full speed. He doesn't move. Crow, the dark-haired young man, runs through his options with brutal efficiency. Not enough essence for a shield that can carry him. No juice to summon his storm of black core. Running on foot means getting grabbed by ribbons before he clears 10 meters. That leaves one choice. He sets his jaw, eyes glowing blue under the hood. He'll tank it. Behind his sunglasses, small fangs catch the light. 2 faces flash in his mind, green skin, yellow eyes, red eyes, 2 people he promised to bring back. Juni catches herself. Normally she wouldn't blink at a jab like that, but she's been suspicious of Yesal from the beginning, and now the suspicion sharpens into something specific. Yesal's aura feels weak. She's only moving when she absolutely has to. That's not strategy, that's conservation. Juni adjusts her stance, eye patch dark against her pale face, expression shifting from combat readiness to cautious analysis. Is Yesal setting a trap, or is she genuinely spent? Either way, the answer changes everything. Crow climbs on top of a black car and stares his opponent down, a woman with long purple hair who meets his defiance with a smirk. He shouts at her, "What, tired of her job all of a sudden? Come at him." She watches him perform with open contempt. Terrible acting, she says. If his opponent was actually out of breath, she wouldn't act this stupid. The word stupid hangs in the air. She reads him like a page, he's bait, and she knows it. A young man in a blue hoodie shouts into the dim air, "What bait? This is boring." He demands to know why she's not attacking him. The woman with long dark hair tied back barely dignifies the question. She's low on essence and she'd like to, but she's not exactly in the mood to drop dead today. He mocks her for joining the Corps to play video games, calling her evil. She fires back without missing a beat. Who is he to judge? He's a sea wolf. He kills for a living too. Then he goes quiet and taps the surface beside him, thinking, and somewhere in that silence, the real game begins. Crow throws himself at his opponent, pure aggression, no hesitation. The first strike gets blocked with a bone-rattling forearm, but the follow-up kick connects with a flash and a slam that sends the brown-haired man stumbling backward. And then Crow realizes something. Hand-to-hand combat burns almost no essence. If they're fighting like this, he can conserve everything he has left. But Crow's instincts are screaming at him. Why is Yesal just letting him recover? She's a level 8, she should have more essence than him, more than enough to end this right now. So either she's genuinely exhausted, or she's baiting him into a fatal mistake. Crow chooses caution, because Yesal isn't Juni. Where Juni overthinks every move, Yesal acts on pure recklessness, and that makes her terrifying. And here's the cruel irony the narration lays bare: Juni's caution, the very thing that has saved her life again and again, is now working against her. Yesal's reckless streak, the one that kept putting her in danger, today it's giving her the upper hand. The tables have turned completely, and Juni, for all her calculated thinking, never saw it coming. Yigal doesn't need essence right now. He needs muscle, and muscle he has. 6 days a week in the gym, and it shows. He drives Juni into the wall with a THWAM that rattles the concrete around her. She nearly spits blood. She manages a sarcastic retort through gritted teeth, but her expression betrays her. She's shaken, disheveled, and outclassed on pure physical terms. The argument erupts in the middle of the brawl. The boy in the blue hoodie insists he doesn't hurt innocent people, never has, never will. But Yesal fires back. Those trainee crows he was so eager to protect, they're hers, and they're not innocent. He throws it back at her. They kidnapped a child, a little boy. Was that boy hers too? The words land heavy, and neither of them has a clean answer. Somewhere in the chaos, a girl with glowing blue eyes makes a silent vow. She needs to get Ryujin away from these people. Meanwhile, Crow screams at point blank her kids are psychos. Yesal grabs him by the collar and smirks, and what she says next cuts deeper than any punch. All aberrants are the same, she tells him. He's heard that one before. Evil, right? She shakes her head. Not evil, doomed. Then the flash, and they're already moving. Boom! A massive blue energy detonation tears through the urban sky, and the shockwave sends a blue-haired figure sprinting for cover. A girl with glowing blue eyes looks up, and she recognizes it instantly. That's Juni's aura. And the sheer volume of it, it's staggering. She breathes 2 words that say everything. They're going to be too late. A flashback cuts through the chaos. Juni as a trainee, younger, smiling in a group photo alongside an orange-haired boy and a dark-haired girl with glasses. Back then, her ribbons could only form in a small radius. Distance made them harder to control, harder to manage. Now back in the present, Juni is on her knees, panting, staring at the blue energy surging from her own hands, as a young man in a ruined suit screams for her help from the ground below. The hooded figure reaches desperately across the void of swirling blue energy. The suited man with the eye patch curses Hyosok is outside his range. His hand stretches out, fingers grasping at nothing. Then someone screams the name, Hyosok. A light-haired man in a suit reaches too, his face pure terror. Then bang! One hand disappears into the chaos. Another falls against an open sky, and the silence that follows is deafening. And then, the quiet aftermath. Sumi stands on concrete steps under a bright sky, voice breaking as she starts to say she couldn't. Hyosok cuts her off gently. It's not her fault. But his next words carry no comfort. They were never going to make it. Even if they'd done everything right, the outcome would have been the same: they die. Sumi's voice shakes as she admits she keeps replaying every decision they made, and Hyosok has nothing left to offer her. The brown-haired figure grins wide, unnerving. Wrong. We were always doomed. Then a blue eye flares wide with shock, glowing and electric. Flash. Crow slams into a dark-haired figure in an abstract space of concentric blue rings, the energy crackling around them both. And then he grins, eye patch prominent, grip iron-tight, and declares with terrifying satisfaction, "Got you." On the street below, the panic is immediate and absolute. A pulsating blue energy sphere erupts beside a city building, massive, swirling, terrifying. Two women freeze in horror. One screams Juni's name, one screams about Yesal, then both scatter into a full sprint. In the chaos, one of them whips around, "What about your son?" A small dark figure bolts into the distance. No one stops. No one can. Inside, two women try to hold a plan together while everything outside falls apart. The girl with wavy dark hair and glasses is fraying at the edges. She mutters that Yesal is just like her mom, and the frustration in her voice is barely contained. The other woman, calm in a light purple sweater, lays out the strategy coolly. Two civilians in the area. They'll each lure one to Yesal. But then the fraying girl asks the question neither of them has answered. Why does Yesal need two hostages? Two men sprint down a corridor, gasping. A map on the wall showing twin red markers, YESOL and Jun CHANG, tracing the paths of a battle that's moving too fast and too unpredictably. The dark-haired woman with the serious expression keeps her thoughts clinical even as her body strains. Yesal is still alive. The rescue is in motion, but this fight is spiraling. There are no clean lines on this map, just two paths hurtling toward a collision. The girl in the purple polka-dotted blouse knows exactly what comes next. In 45 seconds, Yesal and Juni will barrel down that street. She sensed their auras moving straight through it. But this is her last rewind. There are no more do-overs. She has one shot to get Mr. back onto that street. She manages it, then he shoves her away, tells her to run home, says he can handle it himself. And then the boom hits. Before he runs, the man in the teal jacket stops. He asks the girl her name. Jujyoung, she answers. And he looks at her, really looks at her, and tells her her parents should be proud. A heaven-sent angel, he calls her. Then he sprints, glancing back with panic in his eyes as the booms keep coming. And Jujyoung is left standing alone in the sunlit hall, hunching forward, clutching her chest like something inside just broke. Yesal collapses in the swirling blue void of her own making, clutching her chest. Her essence is gone, completely burned out, and the physical toll is making itself known now. Everything hurts. Her chest screams. And still the booms keep reverberating around her like a countdown she can't stop. Meanwhile, a dark-haired man in a suit hangs suspended in glowing blue energy lines, body rigid, neither fighting nor fleeing, just caught. The ground fractures in every direction, cracks spiderwebbing out from the epicenter of a blue energy pillar that tears upward like a column of lightning. Then the sphere expands, and the purple-haired figure with the eye patch and the manic grin stares at it, jaw slack, smile wide with disbelief. The words come out quiet, reverent, stunned. "You're freaking kidding me." And then the narration drops the line that sets everything into context. There was a saying in the aberrant core. Gets you to level 6. Skill gets you to level 7, but level 8, that's natural talent and you either have it or you don't. Juni moves through the blue energy like it's an extension of herself, suspended and devastating. And Yesal has no finesse, no elegant control. What she has is a monstrous, almost obscene amount of raw essence. She slams Juni into a wall with a slam that echoes through the arena, and she grins because hand-to-hand burns less essence, and she still has plenty. Against all odds, Yesal regenerates just enough essence for one final shard, her escape ticket. She runs, blue energy streaming behind her like a comet tail through the city streets, and then, something impossible. A second shard drops into her path like a gift from nowhere. A middle-aged man in a teal jacket witnesses it, and his face crumbles into pure, wide-eyed shock, because nobody just gets lucky like that. Nobody. The jellyfish-like entities swarm through the city streets, blue tendrils cutting through the urban dark, too fast, Yesal thinks, pushing harder. A woman with dark purple pigtails moves to cut off her escape from the front. A man in a blue jacket blazing with yellow aura sprints to wall off the exit route. It's a coordinated trap, closing from every direction. Yesal is running out of room and running out of time. The man in the teal jacket runs. He is terrified, and he is right to be, because Juni's energy catches him anyway. The blast throws him backward in a cascade of blue and orange as the shadowy figure of Juni holds her stance. The narration is blunt. Juni had to stop her assault, not because she wanted to, because she had no choice. Collateral damage was happening, and she was the one causing it. Here's the terrible math of Juni's situation. From this distance, she has no precise control. She cannot fire at Yesal without hitting Mr. back. It's geometrically impossible. Her only clean option is to cancel the attack entirely. And then her eye hardens. She's already wrecked half the neighborhood. Instructor Sang is going to destroy her regardless. A cold resignation settles in. She's done caring about strangers. It is what it is. Yesal makes her choice and runs, grimacing, burning through the last of what she has to tear open her escape portal between two residential buildings. Then a single teal eye appears, glowing, mechanical, watching. And when Yesal finally collapses onto a rooftop with a THMP that echoes her exhaustion, she doesn't get up. Her left arm is shattered in 100 places, and something or someone is still watching. Yesal hits the rooftop running and screams for glasses. Meanwhile, Ryujin, a woman with red eyes that don't miss anything, is already working. As a detector, she spent enough time with Cell 4 to know every single energy signature by heart. And right now, she reaches through the city's noise and locks onto Seiun, even through active aura suppression, several streets away. She grabs her arm. What is Yesal's situation? The demand in her voice leaves no room for delay. One word hovers over the green-haired girl's face like a verdict: guilt. Then the dark-haired young man in the suit demands to know what happened, his fury barely contained. A hand cuts through the air, someone shouts "Hey!" and then a panicked boy in a blue hoodie is on the ground asking if anyone is okay. The suited man crouches beside him, breathing hard, huff after huff, and the weight of what just happened presses down on everyone still standing. The man in the dark blue jacket gasps on the ground, covered in dirt, trying to convince himself this is a dream. It's not. He recognizes what just hit him, an aberrant. And he knows with the clarity of hindsight that it was stupid to try blocking those ribbons instead of dodging. But he didn't dodge, because a civilian was about to be cracked against that wall. And he couldn't let that happen. His eyes glow blue as the energy courses through him, the price of someone else's survival. Yesal carries the light-haired man through the blue energy haze, thinking he could have died. Wham! They hit the ground hard. Stupid, she thinks. Then again, stupid. She pulls herself upright and takes a breath that tastes like iron and failure. The adrenaline is wearing off fast, her left arm shattered, not bruised, not strained, shattered in 100 places, and she's completely spent. This was supposed to be controlled. It wasn't. Yesal lies in a spreading pool of her own blood, every breath a shallow huff. She thinks she ruptured an organ, everything hurts, too much to run, too much to fight. From a distance, an observer with eyes that glow red confirms it. She is not moving. The man in the teal jacket watching her from above looks worried, calculating. If Yesal has any hope of escape now, she needs a hostage, and the large figure standing closest to him is right there. Yesal appears on the reddish street like a ghost, no warning, no sound. The man in the teal jacket flinches back, asking if she's okay, then his eyes go wide. An aberrant corps officer, he's never seen one in real life. He tries to explain his daughter, she's somewhere nearby, but Yesal doesn't blink. No children on this street, she tells him, and he shouldn't be here either. Her hand extends, swirling with blue energy, and her order is ice cold: step away from the criminal. The man's panic sharpens into accusation. Those ribbons were hers. She's the one who attacked him. Yesal doesn't even flinch. She corrects him with contemptuous calm. He got in the way. There's a difference. The blue energy coils around her as she levels her gaze and delivers her final word on the subject. She has a job to finish. The man stands there sweating, dumbfounded, watching her as though he can't quite decide if she's terrifying or completely insane. Probably both. A young man grabs a woman by the arm on the dim street, trying to hold the situation together. An authoritative woman in dark clothes and sunglasses squares off against him, and when she says the name Yesal Na, something shifts in her blue eyes. The young man pushes back. He's a model citizen, she's a stranger, she's an aberrant, leave. But the woman with the sunglasses doesn't leave. The words hang between them, And something about this confrontation feels like it's about more than just the woman on the ground. A girl with long brown hair stands with her head bowed, holding a hand that keeps her tethered. The purple-haired girl in the stylish black outfit looks at her with detached skepticism. If she really wanted to escape, she would have. Instead, she saved him. Why? And why is this man trying to save her back? The logic doesn't compute. None of it makes sense when everything is doomed anyway. But the brown-haired girl lifts her face, voice trembling with fierce conviction. That's not true. The reddish-brown-haired boy grabs his companion by the shoulders and makes a promise. We're going to survive, he tells her, and his voice means every word of it. Don't say scary things like that again. She pulls him into a hug, and for one suspended moment the world softens. He starts to say something, Jun, you really are, but the words cut off. A figure lies still on the ground nearby. And then the screen flares, game over. You lost. And the emotional whiplash is total. In the dark of an open field, Hyun-seok lies on the ground, wheezing, barely conscious. Yondol stands above him, holding a glowing green device, and the mockery in his voice is precise and surgical. I never expected you to make it, he says, and means it as an insult wrapped in surprise. He knows Hyun-seok's weaknesses. He's cataloged them. But Hyun-seok looks up from the dirt with something Yondol didn't account for. He's not done yet. The question hangs over the scene like a taunt. Why isn't he giving up? He should be. He's scared out of his mind, face bruised and bloodied, blue eye glowing from the energy damage. He shoves the other man away and yells at him, his daughter isn't here, get out. And then he turns. He stares down the shadowy figure waiting behind him. His voice drops. Well, what are you waiting for? He is terrified. He is standing anyway. On the rooftop, silhouetted against a dusky sky, a boy in a torn blue blazer watches the street below. A girl with messy brown hair kneels on the ground, voice cracking, Juni, she says, and then the words stop. Her red eyes are wide with something between grief and disbelief. Two boys walk away down the street below, their shadows stretching long in the last light. And someone whispers the word that cuts deepest, walking away. The girl in the blue dress hits the ground dramatically, why shit. And the girl in purple nearly has a heart attack watching her, but something else is wrong. A dark-haired character stares at the data in front of them with a quiet, hollow expression. This isn't right. The plan didn't go the way it was supposed to. What was miscalculated? What was missed? And in the background, barely visible, a figure in a black suit wearing a red animal mask. A presence that was never supposed to be part of this. Night falls over the city. Birds cut across a dark sky. A light brown-haired man in a blue shirt and tie exhales slowly, shrugging off his teal jacket outside a large building. Seiyin and Ryujin aren't back yet. He considers the worst briefly. Did they leave without him? No, not Seiyin. She has too much discipline for that. They're probably still arguing somewhere. He almost smiles. Then a close-up of his eye reveals that the calm is a performance. Something else is eating at him. The scene holds without dialogue, without visible action, just the weight of everything that came before pressing into a moment of stillness. No words are needed here. The pauses between battles are sometimes louder than the explosions themselves, and whatever waits just beyond this silence is still gathering strength. Officer Hae-yoon on silver hair cascading, white lab coat pristine against a black suit, holds a small frightened boy in her arms with the effortless calm of someone who has seen everything and been shaken by nothing. The man in the rumpled black suit nearby stares at her like he's seeing something impossible. The Corps calls her the angel of the infirmary. Looking at her now, it's easy to understand why. She asks the boy if he's worried. Her voice makes the question sound like a cure. The brown-haired man nearly short-circuits. She remembers his name. He fumbles through reassurances about the security corps taking care of the boy, and the light blue-haired woman smiles and confirms it. Appropriate housing, old enough to join the corps, it's handled. He retreats to a tiled room alone, still in his work shirt, setting down his jacket with a quiet whump. And from somewhere off-screen comes the acknowledgement he didn't expect. You've done a good job, Kim. Kim holds up Min's bloodied jacket like it's evidence of something he's not allowed to ignore. Change your clothes, he says, there's blood everywhere. Min lies in the bed looking like he fought a war and technically did. Kim leans forward, concerned, sharpening his voice. Are you sure you don't need the infirmary? Because what happened earlier, that blow, it wasn't small. Min waves it off. He's fine. But the jacket in Kim's hand says otherwise. Kim sits at the edge of the bed, foot tapping, tap, 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 and the rhythm of his anxiety fills the quiet room. He says what he's been holding back. This isn't fair to you. What's Se-Yin's doing? The white-haired figure in the bed doesn't respond, just lies there. Kim keeps going. She keeps throwing you into huge risks, he says, then catches himself. It's not quite that. She doesn't force it. She just lets it happen. And somehow that's worse. Kim's frustration breaks through. It makes him feel terrible, he admits. He looks at Min standing there in a dirtied suit, marked by the battle, and says it plainly. You could have died. That was dumb. It's not fine. Min's expression is difficult to read, complicated, conflicted, but he doesn't deny it. He just taps his fingers. The gravity of the conversation settles between them like something that's been a long time coming. Kim pivots and goes straight to the heart of it. Se-Yin will never change if Min keeps pretending to be invincible. Doesn't he ever want to push back? Tell her no? Get angry? He's allowed, Kim insists. The white-haired figure offers something quiet in response, and Kim exhales, apologizes, runs a hand through his hair, turns away. He's been trying not to pry. He's been failing at it for a while now. At a round table surrounded by suited men, the confrontation crystallizes. Kim tells Min plainly that's why he talked to Taro, that's why he's been watching Se-Yin. The white-haired man's response, barely audible, is 4 words that settle everything and nothing at once, because we're a team. Kim stares at him. 4 men in suits stare at the table, because we're a team. The weight of what that phrase is carrying in this room is immense. The pale-haired man in the dark suit reveals something quietly devastating. He met her for the first time on the same day as Kim. Kim watches him say it and knows, somehow, instinctively, that it's true. He apologizes for asking what comes next because it's deeply personal, but he asks anyway. Does he love her? The pale-haired man's expression shifts, not into anger or denial, but into something older and harder to name. And in the background, the ghost of a hooded figure lingers. Snow falls on a city street. A dark-haired figure with a red scarf smiles at a green-haired companion in brown coat and earmuffs, gentle, careful, warm. And then in the space between those panels, a pale, nearly white figure in a gray hoodie stands somewhere else entirely, tears running silently down their face. Back on the snowy street, the dark-haired figure says the green-haired one will catch cold at this rate, then removes the red scarf and wraps it around them, slow and deliberate. The green-haired one looks surprised, like no one has ever done something that's simple for them before. Hands tie the red scarf in the snow. A dark-haired woman in a brown coat glances up with a small, uncertain sound. Then she and a dark-haired man walk away, and the red scarf is left behind in the snow, abandoned. The man's face twists into a slow, sinister smirk. The hooded figure, when asked if they mind, says simply, "Not at all." And then the long, white-haired man breaks. Tears pour down his face as he cries out. And somewhere in that grief is the answer to a question we haven't fully understood yet. But we will. The tension inside this dimly lit room has been building for a long time. Now it finally breaks the surface. A young man in a blazer crosses his arms and makes a declaration. Se-Yin doesn't need to change. He does. But Isol wants something more, wants to be a red tie, whatever that means. And the long white-haired figure listening to all of this, they don't look reassured. They look like someone watching a fuse burn down. The light brown-haired man in the blue shirt and tie has made up his mind. He's going to confront Se-Yin, and he believes with absolute conviction that Se-Yin needs to step down as leader, at least for now. He doesn't care if anyone tries to stop him, but before that conversation even begins, Ryujin hits the ground, blood around her mouth and nose. A single brutal sound effect marks the moment, wham. The light brown-haired man doesn't back down. He repeats it, Se-Yin needs to step down and he doesn't need Ryujin's support to pursue it. Ryujin, dark-haired with white highlights and glasses, first kneels listening. Then she's on the floor, Blood visible, face smashed against the ground. Another wham rings through the air. The confrontation has gone somewhere violent and irreversible. The title card drops. Hand Jumper, Chapter 99. The absolute worst again. Then a flash backward, 12 minutes ago. Against a stark red background, 3 figures are named like chess pieces. Yes, all Juni, Mr. Back. The woman with the eye patch, drowning in blue energy, stares upward with frustration etched into every line of her face. There were 3 pieces to the plan. Not a single one moved the way she predicted. The plan was never direct. It couldn't be. A hand in a black suit sleeve reaches out not to strike but to push the first domino, and then they fall, one after another across a pale yellow plane, an unstoppable chain reaction. At the end of that chain, a man in a dark blue jacket, running, wide-eyed with terror. He didn't know he was a piece on someone else's board. Night, a city crosswalk. The dark-haired woman in glasses reconnects with the blue-haired figure in the white cap, who confirms the clothing has been dumped. Weighted with rocks, sunk in a nearby river, untraceable. They walk together and the blue-haired one notices something. The woman isn't gloating. A red pedestrian signal glows above them as the narrator confirms. The plan, built on someone's super instincts, actually worked. But success doesn't feel clean. The dark-haired woman admits her instincts were right, just not in the way she expected. Jarring, she calls it. The capped figure reminds her, the gift tells you what to do, not what will happen. And then with a slight smirk they taunt a horrified older man. They lured a civilian straight to Yesal. The woman walks away on patterned pavement, footsteps soft, confessing she expected a life-threat outcome. Just like with that kid. She's not satisfied, she's frustrated. The dark-haired woman in the black suit and bob cut picks apart Juni's choices with surgical precision. Nearly got herself killed. Gave up at the end. On a deserted dusk street, her companion in the navy jacket offers his own read. The real question surfaces in the dark. Why did Juni walk away? A shadowy blue atmosphere settles over them as they consider what they missed and what it might cost them. On the phone, the dark-haired woman lays it out. Juni avoided direct confrontation. She used Mr. Ba, the crippled mechanic, as cover to let Yesal escape. Then the curly brown-haired woman in the baseball cap asks the question that stops the whole conversation cold. How can someone so smart be so dumb? The dark-haired woman pauses, and then she says it quietly, she's not smart. The curly-haired woman stares at her under a moonlit sky. What exactly went wrong? The street lamp and the moon cast long shadows as the dark-haired woman speaks about Juni with something heavier than analysis, almost like concern. 1,000 training hours and an ego the size of the moon, she says, but it's deeper than that. Juni seems disturbed. Then a new figure appears, long dark hair, purple hoodie, holding a drink, apologizing for being late. And when they speak about Juni, it's about someone who simply doesn't want to leave. The turn, they say, affected her that way. So she was just being nice. That's what you're trying to say. The dark-haired girl with the layered bob seems genuinely stunned. And the tall boy with dark hair and glasses leans in disbelief all over his face. Then someone else cuts through. Is that so unbelievably strange? Blue energy explodes across one panel. The chaos punctuates the argument. But in the distance, the group watches from a hill, one of them asking, "Can you believe that?" Under a dark night sky, the curly dark-haired figure in the cap and green jacket turns philosophical. People aren't cold logic machines, they tell Seon. You didn't mean for things to go this way, did you? It sounds like an accusation dressed as a question. As Seon walks a dimly lit path beside a formally dressed companion, the real blow lands. Maybe she's given up on humanity. Maybe she sees the world as full of people exactly like herself. And in the final frame, she holds a boy in a yellow shirt close, silent. A blonde girl in an orange sweater clings to a dark-haired girl with a crown and cries out, "He's going to be okay." The crowned girl responds with a quiet, hollow, "I see." And then the darkness settles in. A whisper from the crowned girl's internal voice. The world will never become a better place as long as someone like her exists in it. A suited young man nearby describes the feeling as ruin, something gnawing like a lion, there since before she even understood what it was. Juni's aura is incoming fast. The dark-haired woman in glasses and the light cap senses it and panics about what to say when they get back to headquarters. But it doesn't matter. Juni is already there. A white cap. A punch that lands with a sound that fills the page. And then Juni stands over the dark-haired woman, fists clenched, and issues a single brutal invitation, hit her back. He's already there. The dark-haired man in the X-cap grins and says he didn't need to be asked. Then the cap comes off. He swings and the WHOCK echoes. Juni takes the hit directly to the face, and she's still standing. The attacker can't hide his shock. What the hell? How is she still on her feet? Juni, with dark blue hair, not falling, not flinching, staring back like she was waiting for it. From somewhere above, the dark-haired woman in the red-rimmed glasses watches, eyes closed, a faint, satisfied smile on her face. When did she get so tough? The answer doesn't matter. What matters is that it's working. Good, perfect, just like that. She stands on a rain-slicked rooftop looking down at a desolate train yard where two faint, glowing figures clash below. She watches, she waits, and she does not move. Rain falls, credits roll, and then Chapter 100 announces itself, Expiation. Two figures burst through a deserted city street in the heavy downpour, rain roaring around them. Yesal in dark suit and green undershirt glancing back. Juni beside her, also in dark, and asking the question like it's the only one that matters right now. Is she still refusing to activate her abilities? Juni doesn't slow down for a second. She fires back. Why would she need to? Her red eyes narrow to burning points. A blink and she reappears surrounded by red particles, blade of light in hand, swinging with a POW that reverberates. And beneath it all, a thought surfaces like bile, Sei-Yin Lee. She always hated watching her train. That hatred isn't fresh. It's ancient. It's been waiting. The gymnasium floor is polished and cold. Juni leaps and delivers a kick that could end a fight. Her opponent, long light brown hair, casual hoodie, takes the impact and falters. And through it all, a voice narrates with contempt, weak but trying so hard, always struggling. It makes Juni feel like something dark inside her. The opponent looks frustrated and emotional. Juni looks like she's already won and she knows it. The dark-haired character in the suit tries a kick, POW, thinks about burning essence. But a massive, unseen opponent catches it and throws them to the ground with a thud. Too slow, too weak. The words land like additional blows. Glowing eyes yellow-green with frustration, the character thinks it. All that training just to be average. But then somehow they surge upward and grab, and the massive opponent lets out a what the in genuine surprise. On the ground, shocked and defeated and still not done. The character in the suit narrates their own weakness without flinching. Yes, they're weak, but they have goals. They train as hard as they can. The towering opponent leans over them and presses the wound. You must feel pathetic, watching from the sidelines, having given up on everything. In the dark alley shadows, those words land somewhere deep, because part of them knows the opponent isn't entirely wrong. The character with black hair and red-tinted glasses leans over the slumped, brown-haired figure in the dark coat and asks the question with no mercy, why didn't you fight with her? If you turned rogue alongside her, maybe you could have broken free from the core entirely. But you didn't even try. The accusation hangs there. And the final panel closes tight on those red-tinted eyes, steady, relentless, repeating the verdict. You never do. Juni leans over the figure on the ground, particles erupting around them, the fight still alive in the air. Then she recoils, disoriented, something shifting. She extends a hand. Says okay and good job, Ryujin, with something almost resembling gratitude. Then falls, THMP, hard into the ground. And through narration, the dominoes are explained. Mr. Back may file a report about a girl who lied about his daughter's location. That lie disrupted Juni's fight with Yesal. She will investigate. The strategy unravels slowly, deliberately. Juni won't suspect that Ryujin and the others cooperated because aura can't be faked. Ryujin's genuine anger, her flashes of rage, if Juni is nearby, she felt every bit of it as real. The cover holds. And on the ground, the dusty, exhausted figure cracks a small, sardonic remark about their pain. One beat of dark humor in a scene built entirely from calculated deception and barely controlled fury. Juni is face down, bleeding from the mouth and narrating through the pain. The physical agony, she says, at least distracts from the ache in her chest. She forces herself upright, hair falling across her bruised face. Then comes the confession that cuts deeper than any punch. She's so tired. Not of the fighting, not of the core, she's tired of feeling guilty. A close-up of bloodshot eyes. Then, wham! The fight erupts again, dark suits, a figure falling, a THMP. Then Juni is bound by glowing blue energy, struggling upright, restrained. And through the restraints she hears it, yo, ryugin. And her eyes go from confusion to recognition to something molten and furious. Then Ryujin approaches with a smirk, calls Juni's name, and delivers a punch that sends blood spraying, head snapping sideways with a WHOCK that shakes the whole page. Juni goes down WHOCK and gets back up. She always gets back up. Energy crackles around her, glasses askew as she demands to know what's happening. A shadowed figure, Yesal, reacts with barely concealed horror. And then Seon steps forward, long dark hair, eye patch, one eye glowing an eerie blue. She leans toward Juni and asks why she looks so confused. Juni's answer is simple and deeply unsettling. The other person stinks of blood. The purple-haired girl in the black suit holds all the cards and she knows it. You chose this position, she tells Juni. What are you shocked about? Juni bleeds and defies and argues that being beaten up a little bit is somehow disproportionate. But the other voice cuts through clean. When a member of the team fails, the whole team suffers the consequences. And then Juni's expression shifts, frightened, wide-eyed, as blue energy crackles and pulls her somewhere she doesn't want to go. Juni reaches out toward the energy-bound shadow and says it's simply, you chose this, Seon. Then the sound effects take over, huff, huff, huff. Her face is a mask of blood and exhaustion, breath coming in ragged pulls. Her eyes are wide and drowning in pain. And eventually the word escapes her, stop, just stop. The chapter ends there. Title card drops, Hand Jumper, Chapter 101, Purgatory. The voices multiply. Because of you, because of you. A light brown-haired girl with a bow wide with anger. A shadowy energy-bound figure echoing with distorted fury. And Juni, still standing, still bleeding, still delivering the truth the other person doesn't want to hear. You think the world is filled with people who'll just hurt you. A figure in a long black dress bows their head in the red light. You're no good to anybody. Juni gasps out, stop, and means it. Juni smiles, not warmly, chillingly, with blue energy crackling at her edges, asking if her opponent is actually crying like a baby. And then the memory ambushes her, a red-washed scene, a voice saying, don't cry, if you cry, you lose. Her own face becomes tear-streaked and bloody as she pleads for it to stop. The red-haired smiling figure leans close and tells her that please means nothing. What does he actually want to hear from her? She doesn't know. She's never spoken a genuine word since joining the Corps. Blue energy coils in the air as Juni grins with cold confidence. And across from her, a tear-streaked figure in a suit breaks open, apologizing, saying it was all their fault, everything, please let go. Then a single sound, chomp. Something shifts violently in the power dynamic. The suited figure begs not to be forced further. Juni's smirk only deepens. This isn't just a fight anymore. This is something much older, much more personal. The eye-patch-wearing woman with long dark hair takes charge of the whole room. She uses glowing blue energy to pop the dark-haired man into the air and then slam him thud onto the ground. Standing over both of them, the kneeling man and the shocked short-haired woman in glasses, she delivers the ultimatum in 2 parts. Get over your differences tonight, or run from the errant core. Tonight. And behind her, barely visible, a tall, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes watches everything. Juni stands over the kneeling figure on the textured blue floor and speaks with the quiet authority of someone who is absolutely done. She's not dealing with this anymore. If both of them are still around tomorrow, and if she ever catches them fighting like this again, Cell 4 is disbanded. She turns to walk away, glances back with a smirk. At least, she reminds them they have a choice. Seon kneels on dark ground still as June's ultimatum echoes. A WHSHHH of air, a THMP of something settling. Seiyin in black suit, glasses, scratched cheek, looks up and lets the word sink in. Choice. Could it really be that simple? And then the vision comes, a red scarf. Salmon. If she runs, Salmon would move heaven and earth to protect her. Wouldn't even ask why. Seiyin stares into the night and thinks, maybe she's just not built for this. The dark blue-haired figure stands over the kneeling Seiyin and doesn't let it go. When you punched me, they say. When you acted like a complete piece of shit. Was all of that just a ruse, to cover the fact that they've been fighting this entire time? Seiyin's face is bruised, bandaged, bleeding, and filled with self-reproach. Pathetic, they call it. And internally, Seiyin is raging against something even simpler. The inability to stop crying, the tears she sees as weakness dragging her under. A jagged wound-shaped mark on Seiyin's back. A thought. It would be easier if, and then the sentence never finishes. Seiyin kneels defeated and a hand reaches down toward them. The wavy dark blue-haired man stands over them, distressed but firm, and cuts through the guilt with something almost impatient. Juni strangled me, not you, and I'm fine. Get up. Seiyin stares up, confused. Huh. The hand grasps theirs, pulls, and something just barely changes. A high-rise balcony. City lights sprawling into darkness below. A body of water somewhere in the distance. Juni and Seiyin stand beside each other under the night sky, and Seiyin breaks the silence first. Are you going to run? Juni says nothing for a moment. Then Seiyin answers their own question, you already know. And then Juni turns, looks directly, and flips the question right back. What about you? Seiyin's question catches Juni off guard. Were you worried I'd escape again? Is that why you're being nice? Seiyin denies it flatly. Juni already knows she won't run, she said so herself. If she wanted out, she would have gone when Yesal attacked. But there's more. The narration shifts to an invisible force chains around Ryujin's leg. Not physical, something deeper. Something that holds even those who refuse to participate. The core doesn't need locks. It needs you to stay. Seiyin asks Juni a question no one expects in this moment. Do you hate me? Juni, dark blue hair and glasses, blinks. Seems genuinely caught off guard. Seiyin presses. If they're not going to fight anymore, they have to resolve their differences. So the answer matters. And Juni's answer comes slow, careful. No, I don't hate you, Seiyin Lee. The city glitters behind them. Neither of them moves. Always the same answer. The girl with dark hair and glasses reflects on it. She knows Juni is probably just being polite. And yet somehow, even knowing that, it's still reassuring to hear. She mocks herself quietly, pathetic, seeking validation from someone who doesn't. And the sentence trails off into the dim light of a private room. Across from her, the boy with curly hair calls her pathetic too, but says he can't actually hate her. And somehow that lands even harder. A gloved hand, blue, formal, holds up one finger and begins with the first reason. Past all the messed up things, past all the wreckage, there's still a glimmer of something okay-ish somewhere inside the other person. Really well hidden, but present. Then two fingers, a peace sign. The second reason. No matter how bad the other person's past, their own was much worse. And the proof? A faded photo of teenagers smiling. Someone in that photo looks familiar. Someone who made it here carrying something awful. Juni is surprised. Ryujin Seiyin never volunteers information about herself. Never. Juni asks directly what happened. Seiyin looks away. The city blurs behind them in the dark glass of the high-rise. Then she looks back up, her face bathed in cool blue light. And she says it without decoration, without softening. She got her family killed. Seiyin holds up the peace sign again, completing the thought. Second reason, last reason. Whatever horrible things Juni has done in her past, what Seiyin herself did was much worse. The faded photograph appears again. A group of teenagers smiling, splattered with blood. Juni watches with quiet suspicion. Ryujin never opens up like this. The night settles heavy around them both, and the dark stretches out beneath the city lights. A content warning. Then, Hand Jumper, Chapter 102, Blood In, Blood Out. The confession lingers from the end of the last chapter as Seiyin, dark curly hair, black suit, blue tie, lights a cigarette on the high-rise balcony. CHK. Exhales smoke into the dark, eyes wide and aching. And then quietly the first brick of the story comes loose. His mother wasn't a bad person, but she was a bad mother. All men should die. Juni hurls the words into the past with raw conviction. She remembers screaming for Rayon, begging to stay, crying out that she loved him. Keep it, they'll raise it together. A child with black hair and green eyes sits in an oversized orange sweater, face still and solemn. The innocence in that image makes everything around it worse. This is what was lost. This is what the core was built on top of. The girl with curly brown hair and glasses, young, in an orange sweater, can't believe it. As an aberrant, her mother, no shot. And Seiyin confirms, yes, his mother started running out of money. With a child to protect, she couldn't take dangerous aberrant jobs, so she took every other shifty one that came along. A girl in a chicken costume holds a promotional sign. A boy in a matching outfit sits beside her. Small, absurd moments of survival. We kept moving, the narration says. We always kept moving. Always moving, always running. A woman named Lamia pulls a suitcase through unclear spaces, a small dark-haired child gripping her hand. The narrator could tell they were fleeing from something, but Lamia never said what. And then the past catches up. A pale-skinned man with dark eye circles and a blood-stained collar appears, speaking Lamia's name with a sinister smile. Thought you died years ago, he says, and he means it as a problem to be corrected. Lamia turns to face him. Bones. Light gray slick-back hair, dark suit, blue energy already forming in his palm. She asks for old time's sake, do they really have to do this? Bones doesn't hesitate. She can't just leave the syndicate. Kill to get in, die to get out. Blood in, blood out. Those are the rules. Lamia argues she's with her kid. Bones looks at her and says she's changed. Hiding behind a child, the energy crackles BASHING and the rules apply regardless. A blue energy kick lands and the impact is devastating. Juni lies on a blood-soaked red ground and says 3 words, I'm disappointed. A dark-suited observer with a cigarette leans in. She didn't dodge that. Juni spits dark fluid, grimacing. A light-haired man stares in shock. And then the full picture assembles itself. A massive shadowy leg looming over a small, terrified, dark-haired child in a maroon hoodie. Juni didn't dodge the kick because she took it to protect the kid. Was she always going to end up here, bleeding for someone else? We don't know yet, but we will. Juni is still on the ground, blood soaking into the earth beneath her when the dark-suited man above her freezes. He can't pull out whatever is lodged in him, and before he can finish the sentence, something shifts. Juni's eyes go wide with a different kind of terror, not pain, betrayal. She screams at him, is he trying to leave her too? Her voice cracks. Don't go, she'll listen. She'll do anything he says. And then something inside Lamia breaks open. She stops pleading. Her face twists, blood-splattered, eyes burning red, blue energy crackling from her core. She whispers that she'll do what he said, blood in, and then finishes the phrase herself. Your blood out. The explosion is instantaneous. A wet, sickening splat. Bones, the enforcer who thought he had all the power, is simply gone. And Lamia stands in the rain of red, perfectly still, offering a breezy goodbye. Lamia's heels click against the blood-soaked ground. A cigarette butt lies discarded nearby, the world's most casual crime scene. She says it plainly, she can't make anyone stay with her. It wouldn't be good for either of them. And then, in narration that drifts like smoke, that was the day, she thinks. The day she accepted she couldn't be Juni's mother. Somewhere behind her, a small figure covered in blood covers their face and doesn't make a sound. And so Lamia gave her up. A flashback blooms into warm light, a kitchen, a piano, a middle-aged woman named Ms. Hio waiting to take over what Lamia couldn't be. Young Ryujin stands in her little brown coat and pink backpack, eyes already filling with water. Her mother points around the apartment like she's giving a tour of someone else's future. Ryujin asks if she's really leaving. The answer comes without hesitation, yes. And Ryujin, teeth gritted, says she still needs her. Lamia doesn't soften. She calls the child's desperate face creepy. She mocks her for not knowing what ad infinitum means, as if vocabulary were a prerequisite for love. She says it'll always go her way, not the child's. That's just how it is. The little girl screams no, a raw, ragged sound, and then collapses inward. whispering the most devastating 3 words a child can believe about themselves: "I'm such a failure." But there's a boy, taller, dark-haired, face streaked with tears and a smile that's trying too hard to hold itself together. He pulls the red-haired girl close and tells her, "Don't grow up to be like their mother. She's the biggest liar in the entire world. Just remember that." The stars come out above them in the narration, and somewhere out there, he says, she's still falling ad infinitum, forever and ever, and the question of what happens to him hangs unanswered in the dark. Back in the present, or whatever dim, half-lit space this conversation is happening in, an obscured figure asks Juni the question directly. Was her mother an aberrant? Juni blinks. Huh. And then the panic sets in, not about the question, but about herself. She's out of essence. She can't test her responses. Can't rewind if she says something she'll regret. She stares with a cut across her cheek and admits quietly she thinks so. But she never once saw her mother activate her essence. Not once. The cigarette in her mouth is the only casual thing about her. The figure presses, "What about you?" And Juni really turns to face the question. Was her mother an aberrant? She wrestles with it internally. Should I be honest? The scar on her cheek catches the dim light. She answers with uncertainty dressed up as honesty. She thinks so, but she never saw it. Not once. And that absence of proof carries more weight than any answer could. Chapter 103, Insects. The title arrives like a warning. Juni stands there with her cigarette and her stiff face, looking almost detached, while the other figure, dark hair, glasses, blood near their mouth, tries desperately to explain something. They're telling the truth, they say, but internally they're falling apart. Can't speak without crying, can't rewind any of it. And Juni, watching this unravel, thinks, "Oh God, my face feels so stiff." Even her composure is performance. The spotlight finds the dark-suited figure alone, and they reflect. It's only been a few weeks since they awakened their gift, but somehow they've already forgotten how to have a conversation. They stutter that it was complicated, that there are things said that can't be taken back. And then the other voice confirms it plainly. Her mother is dead, right? The wide eyes that follow aren't surprise. They're the look of someone processing something they already knew but weren't ready to hear. A woman in a red dress kneels on a tiled floor watching ants move in formation, a complicated thing, she calls it. A flashback. A small girl in purple holds a heart-shaped balloon, excited to show her mother something. Then back to the present, a dark-haired woman with a gold ring on her hand, staring down at the ants with wide, somber eyes. Her mother died when she was very young, she says. Strange woman. Difficult one. And she asks herself, quietly, if she doesn't miss her, did she ever really love her? The woman in the suit, long dark hair and glasses, stares with her mouth open, the kind of shock that doesn't have words yet. The figure in shadow speaks about a mother who left, saying naturally it didn't affect them much. And the suited woman catches herself. Okay, good job, she didn't lie, but she also didn't want to be too revealing. Her companion says, what? And then with the cadence of someone connecting dots, oh, that explains a lot. The room stays dim. The tension stays. One figure walks away, making a peace sign, casual as breathing. The other one, glasses fogged with realization, calls it out. Was talking about the mother just a tactic, a way to get sidetracked, to flip the interrogation. And then the memory surfaces. Didn't this person say their family was killed by the aberrant core? A faded photograph bleeds into the scene. A group, a red hoodie, a peace sign. Stained now. And the tall figure turns to the smaller silhouette and asks, was it their fault? The man in the dark suit admits it, bringing that up was a mistake. He thought for a moment she might. But no, he stops himself, a laugh bitter and brief. She couldn't understand this, not rogue aberrants, not any of it. The suited figure feels like someone from another country entirely. And then, almost offhand, he asks, have you heard of the Sword Brothers' tale? The shift in tone is deliberate, like someone offering a key and watching to see if you know what lock it opens. The tale unfolds against a dark blue sea, a ship disappearing into the distance. The king sends the brothers to war overseas, but they leave the youngest behind. His power is too weak, they say. The story cuts warm. A boy with light brown hair reads aloud while a dark-haired girl clutches a plush toy, listening with shining eyes. Even in the retelling, there's something tender about the youngest, the one left behind, the one who speaks to birds. The dark-haired figure in the suit lies back and confirms, yes, they remember the ending. The king discovers a spy in the brothers' camp, but there's an ocean between the youngest and them, no way to warn in time. So the youngest ties a message to a teal albatross and sends it across the sea. Two figures sit on a ledge under stars, retelling what happens next. The winged messenger arrives. The brothers survive. The weakest brother, the one they left behind, saves everyone. But Seiyin, blue-skinned, sharp-eyed, lollipop in hand, isn't buying the sanitized version. She cuts in. The youngest brother was never weak. Only an idiot measures power through brute strength alone. The other figure tells her that's not the point and offers the real ending, the one they don't tell children. The brothers win the war and march home. And the king, standing in his court holding a piece of paper, sees them return. And his expression is not relief. Totally unscathed, Captain Sung Woo-han declares with a confident grin, addressing the governor directly. The mood in the room shifts instantly. A report changes hands and the reaction is confusion edged with dread. How could this be? They came back stronger than when they left. The caption lands like a cold announcement. This is Captain Han, new leader of the 3rd headquarters. And someone in the room says, quietly but unmistakably, not good. The name surfaces in the room like a bad omen. Era Sun, the divine witch, previous head of the corps. The men in dark suits speak with the reverence of people who survived something. They must not allow an aberrant like that to exist again. And then the story within the story darkens. A hand emerges from shadow, holding a disembodied liver. The king makes a deal with a dark god. His daughter's liver for his son's power. A woman with dark wavy hair leans in, she knows what comes next. The king executes all of his brothers, every single one except the youngest, the non-threat, the bird whisperer. A character with blood on their face and blue hair slams back into the story, so the king learned nothing. Let me finish the story. The youngest is sheltered, protected, tied to something called the Conquered. And in the distance, a dark silhouette stands among circling birds, watching, waiting, connected to something much larger than a folk tale. On a bench under city lights blurred to gold, the two sit side by side, blue-haired, dark-haired, both in suits, both carrying too much. The blue-haired one calls the story ridiculous. The other concedes maybe, but that's missing the point. These legends exist for a reason. The tie between aberrants and the government isn't policy. It isn't law. It's centuries of distrust, baked into every story they tell children and every deal made in dark rooms. And that distrust isn't going anywhere. Captain Han knows exactly what that distrust looks like from the bottom. Papers scattered across the floor. A voice above him calling his report unacceptable, his budget over, his work insufficient. Level 5. Level 8. Level 10. Doesn't matter, he seethes internally, you're still an insect to them. Pick it up. Now. He crouches and picks up the papers, and the red glow behind him says everything his expression doesn't. Captain Han stands in the ruins of that moment, scattered papers, red-lit dark room, suit immaculate but pride anything but. He tells Seiyin what she'll learn soon enough. The rank doesn't matter. The accomplishments don't matter. To the people above them, aberrants are always insects. The command repeats, unacceptable report, pick it up now. And his silhouette absorbs the red light like a man absorbing every injustice he's ever been handed, storing it somewhere dangerous. Chapter 104. The Endgame. The title alone carries threat. Inside, chaos. Two men in dark suits and red ties on hands and knees, rifling through papers scattered across an office floor. The blond man in the long coat says, "Let me, Captain," and takes over the search with precision. But the dark-haired man watches the pile of documents and says what they're both thinking. This old F-CK. The orange glow from below makes it look like fury given a light source. The blond man's jaw is tight with barely contained rage, revolting sack of drying meat, he spits, which is perhaps the most creative insult uttered by someone on their knees picking up papers. The dark-haired man with glasses crouches beside him, cheerful as a man at a picnic, announcing that 4 hands are better than 2. Papers shuffle, documents transfer. And then he stands, tucks them smoothly into his jacket and looks at the governor with a polite smile. "Will that be all, sir?" The older gray-haired official studies a display case holding something white and feathered, the cooling Lilith. He asks how the search is going. The dark-haired man with the quiet smile delivers the answer. It's held by the Begonia group. Beyond that, very little. They've been secretive. The governor demands to know how they even confirmed that much, if not through evidence. And the answer arrives with a pause. The Begonias have been flooding the market with something called rapture, a purple, bubbling substance. And it's everywhere. The sheer volume of rapture in the market is staggering, so much it's being exported overseas. And here's the disturbing part. Rapture is sourced from humans, but human trafficking is actually down, which means something else is being used as a source. The image shifts: an arowana fish, deep water, and then a fishing net hauling up something pale and wrong. A mermaid, sword through her chest, hair like golden fleece even in death. A fisherman in a plain shirt shouts that he sold it. And the dark-haired man in the trench coat realizes all of this happened within a single month. A nervous man in a striped shirt kneels before the dark-haired agent, practically vibrating with desperation. The money involved, you just don't see that kind of money on this island, he says. It was already dead when they found it. The agent in the black trench coat smiles faintly, unmoved, and turns to the blue-haired boy beside the kneeling man. Direct question, quiet delivery. Is your father telling the truth, kid? The boy's puzzled expression says he's wondering the same thing. The blue-haired young man describes what he found in the shallows, a woman whose skin caught light like scales, whose golden hair stayed soft despite having been drowned, and through her chest, a sword. He pulled at her, tried to wake her, but she was stiff and still like something out of myth. The agent in glasses listens and smiles a smile that has no warmth in it. The godling, he says softly, was dormant, past tense, as if it's no longer the case. The older official loses patience, calls the agent useless, demands they torture information out of the begonias they've captured. The agent responds with practiced calm. They've tried. The problem is the woman running the begonias, Penrose, head of the organization. Long wavy red hair, purple eyes glowing like live embers. She's using a relic to hide Lilith's location, a close-up of a ring on a hand. Whatever that relic does, it's working. Class B relic number 134, the Sub Rosa. The gray-haired man demands the name and gets it. What follows is almost elegant in its cruelty. The last object written in the Sub Rosa cannot have its location communicated. Not through words, not through maps, not through signs. Airtight. And then the follow-up, what's the usage cost? The dark-haired agent with glasses lifts 4 fingers and smiles faintly. 4 tongues, every new moon. Captain Hand does the math and it lands like a stone. The begonias can pay that cost indefinitely. The room shifts to a large window and a night city beyond it, and the ultimatum arrives without ceremony. 2 weeks. Locate Lilith, or the 3rd Squadron gets stripped from his command. Hand goes through shock to disbelief to open fury in the span of seconds. It's an insane command, he says, to locate something that is almost by definition impossible to locate. And then comes the cold final word. There are 2 other captains who could take his place. The dark-haired agent in the long coat bows to his blonde superior in the high-rise overlooking the city. Internally, he recognizes the pattern. They always target Captain Han. The blonde man is more blunt about it. This is an excuse. They'll use Han, grind him down, then throw him away. Such is fate, the agent thinks. And then aloud, he raises his real concern. The public knows almost nothing about Lilith's existence. Just whispers, rumors without confirmation. For now. The superior leans into the consequence. If Lilith's existence is proven to the public, panic follows. And panic has a very specific economic shape. People stop spending, the stock market tanks, the whole system buckles. He invokes the catastrophe at Hongshan Island as proof. A woman on the phone joins the conversation, referencing the losses investors took that year. And at the center of all this projected collapse, Captain Hand's name, spoken like a load-bearing wall. The dark-haired agent confirms quietly, yes, he was there. And then the man with slick-back hair gestures, voice dropping to something almost theatrical, when a godling awakens. You know what happens? The answer isn't spoken, it's shown. A masked figure with pale, long hair stands in a field of bodies on blood-soaked ground beneath an orange sky, suits and stillness everywhere. That is what a godling's awakening looks like. That is the thing they are trying to prevent. A red-haired woman with an eye patch smirks and offers 2 words, "Good luck." The agent says he'll need it and means it. The scene shifts to a dark, reflective corridor. A young blonde boy with his own eye patch walks beside a taller figure looking up at something just out of frame. And then the floor, a burst of orange and yellow energy against blue tile. Sparks scatter. Something is stirring. Something that was supposed to stay dormant. A building burns in the distance. Officer Juni, light purple hair, dark coat, stares up at the flames with an expression that can't decide between awe and dread. Captain Han walks beside him, crisp and composed, asking if that was his first time with the governor. Juni apologizes for drifting. It's been 5 months since he transferred to the main headquarters. But the thoughts haven't stopped. And standing next to a building on fire, that feels less like a metaphor and more like a weather report. The young blonde officer, sharp suit, sharper edge, questions whether he was too harsh back there. Captain Han keeps his expression neutral. The captain never denigrates people, he says, meaning he won't. Meaning he's different from those above him. A brief dark thought flickers through the narration like a knife passing through light. And then the weight of the mission settles back over them both. The governor's impossible demand, the 2-week clock, the stakes that keep growing. Sayin, the blonde man in the dark suit, thinks through it all as they walk. A man that makes the impossible possible. Leader, kingpin, government punching bag. If any aberrant could run the Corps, it would be Captain Han. But the woman with dark curly hair and blue eyes calls out to him, Sayin, and the reverie breaks. He comes back to the question that won't leave him alone. Where is the aberrant Corps going? What is the end game? He stands alone in the corridor, and the question hangs. One voice says it straight. There's no light at the end of this tunnel. You can't win. The light-haired man in the suit believes it. Whatever happens in the next operation, they're the ones who lose. 2 silhouettes sit on a ledge under a night sky, small against the dark. But then Juni, dark hair, glasses, blood still near her mouth, shuts it down hard. Don't be stupid. And the man across from her, glasses on, smiling like he has a secret, says 3 words that change the room. I have a plan. Sayin keeps asking the question, the aberrant Corps, where is it going? What is the end game? And the answer he keeps getting is nothing. No light in the tunnel. Can't win. Shadows cut sharp across both their faces as they sit side by side on the concrete ledge, city lights smearing behind them. The light-haired man doesn't argue the point. He just sits with the dread of it. We're the ones who lose, as though naming it makes it slightly more survivable. Juni tells him flatly not to be stupid. The scarred cheek, the glasses, the blue tie, all of it radiating a kind of furious clarity. The man in glasses across from her smiles and says he has a plan. Chapter 105 drops its title like a threat, a murder of crows. And then Juni, because someone has to be the one who says it, reminds him exactly how this power dynamic works. She saved his life. He obeys her now. But she won't force his cooperation. She's making a point of that. A dark-suited figure with wavy hair sits against a wall and makes a brutal offer. If you've given up on everything, just run away to Yesal. But the short-haired figure cuts back. You can't, Mary. It's not that simple. You got your family killed. And Yesal doesn't know. The question hangs with the weight of an accusation. Am I right? Elsewhere, a young dark-haired girl in a loose shirt and a woman in a blue jacket react to the name Yesal, confused. Alarmed, caught in something they don't fully understand yet. The argument about Yesal fractures into something raw. The long-haired girl insists Yesal has options. She helped her, let her stay, same as anyone else. The boy in the long purple coat tears into her. Yesal was an aberrant. She's an aberrant. How could Ryujin bring an outsider into this? The word outsider lands like a slap. The calmer woman in the blue shirt tries to de-escalate. They should just leave. But no one in this room is ready to leave anything behind. Someone demands to know why she befriended a human at all. Stupid brat, they say. The tan woman with wavy hair faces it head-on. She told her what she was, and now that human is in danger just for knowing. She's tired of watching things happen, of being passive while the world burns around her choices. In a darker corner of the scene, the figure in the suit with the teal undershirt admits it quietly. They wanted to do the right thing. Just once. And the tanned woman's hand finds theirs. Yesal has no idea what she's been dragged into. The blue-suited figure holds out a hand and asks, "Unforgivable, right?" And the short-haired one with the red mark across their cheek stares back and says, "Yes," with something close to a smile that has no kindness in it. "Yes, you are. I understand perfectly." And then the ruling arrives: you can't return to a normal life unless you absolve yourself. You're stuck here. Under a full moon, two silhouettes, one pulling the other, move through an abstract dark. This isn't mercy. This is leverage dressed as understanding. Under the night sky and power lines, the long-haired figure in the blue suit says it directly. "You're just like me." The wavy-haired man pushes back. "The captain is nothing like you." But the sinister smile doesn't falter. "Don't make that face, officer," he says. "Plans matter. Even plans with almost no chance of success. Especially those. Two men in identical suits standing on opposite sides of something that hasn't been named yet, but it's there, crackling between them like static." On the balcony, the man in the long blue coat walks away from the edge and tells the young officer, "If you've given up on your future." The dark-haired officer in the red tie almost laughs. "A future," but he straightens up. "Of course," he says. How could he abandon a chance to climb the ranks? They talk about plans, about what comes next, about where a man like him ends up. Maybe a family, the older man suggests. A nice apartment by the sea. Dark birds circle overhead. The younger man almost smiles. Almost. A lion-shaped explosion tears through a city building, orange and red devouring the skyline. And the light-haired man in the dark suit, standing in the wreckage of whatever plan just went sideways, says it out loud. "I'm going to kill the governor." Then he walks away from the statement like he's embarrassed by it. His eye up close is wide and blue and full of something that has nothing to do with confidence. He stands on the ledge with dark crows spiraling around him, and whatever comes next dies on his lips. Crows, dozens of them, silhouettes against vivid blue, then against the tiled floor, then chained among feathers and scattered debris. The light-haired man moves through this space like it belongs to him, reaching toward the dark shapes below. And behind him, the agent in the textured dark coat turns slowly, a single black feather drifting past him against white. Two men. Two plans. A murder of crows gathering around something that hasn't broken open yet, but will. The man with the glasses and the dark suit leans in toward Officer Juni with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. He tells the light-haired man walking beside him, through a carpet of scattered black feathers, that he's thinking too small. And then, quieter, almost as a warning, "Be careful what you say, because you never know who's listening." Two men, one plan, and feathers everywhere. Captain Hand strides forward with the confidence of a man who has already won. He has a plan. The clawed feet of a defeated bird monster twitch on the wet ground behind him, proof of what that plan cost. Then, inside a bright indoor hall, a purple-haired woman with round sunglasses throws her arms up in disbelief. All the baby crows made it back to the nest. She calls it a Christmas miracle, and honestly, she's not wrong. Back in the briefing room, a blond man stares at his surviving teammates like he can't quite believe what his eyes are telling him. How are they all still alive? Seon, dark-haired and grinning behind his glasses, breaks the tension with characteristic dark humor. Double the team, double the chance of casualties. But beneath the jokes, a new mission is already forming, and the other team hasn't even arrived yet. Before any mission briefing begins, the light-haired man with the olive eyes stops everything. There's something that needs to be sorted out first. Chapter 106, The Problem with People is. The dark-haired woman across from him, red-framed glasses catching the light, turns and asks him plainly, "What is it?" His arms are crossed. His jaw is set. Whatever he's about to say, he's been holding it for a while. He stretches, he smiles, and then he asks the hardest question in the room: "Were you really going to hurt a child?" The dark-haired woman with the glasses doesn't flinch. She fired back immediately. She felt his aura. Her eyes glow green against a burst of red and teal. She knows what she sensed, and she's not letting it go. He clenches his fists and insists he would never hurt a child. He demands to know who she thinks he is. His aura was reactive, defensive, shaped by the criminal they were both facing. He turns to Ryujin for backup, his voice cracking under the pressure of being accused of something this serious. The scar on Isol's face catches the light. This conversation has teeth. The boy in the cap gives a simple answer, yeah, but something still feels off and everyone in the room can sense it. The dark-haired girl with the cat-eye glasses voices it first. She acknowledges the logic that the captured girl could still be telling the truth, but something doesn't sit right. The checkered floor beneath them feels like a game board, and nobody's sure whose move it is. He says he's glad he misunderstood, but then almost immediately he says it anyway. He still thinks Seiyin should step down as leader. Seiyin blinks. A single, stunned what? The man backtracks quickly, insisting it doesn't have to be permanent just for now. He acknowledges she's smart, but smart and safe are not the same thing, and everyone in that room knows it. He doesn't let up. The last mission they shouldn't have been there, Seiyin shouldn't have done what she did. That aberrant had glowing red eyes and enough power to dice them all apart. He collapses the argument into one unbearable question. What if someone had died? A flashback erupts in vivid color, the blue-coat figure, the radiating energy. Then silence. And a hand reaching for a cherry on a checkered surface like everything is a game with consequences. A golden bishop chess piece falls and cracks against a dark-suited leg. The light-haired man bends to pick it up. Isol cuts through the silence. She asks if he's worried about Min. He straightens, surprised, asking if she thinks he doesn't treat Min fairly. And then Isol does something unexpected. She agrees with him. Her expression goes quiet and reflective. She's been relying too heavily on Min, ordering him around, disregarding his safety. He says it plainly. He tunnel-visioned on earning points and started treating Min like a tool. That's not safe or fair. His voice carries real weight, real shame. A figure in a beige hat pleads for one more chance. A woman in sleek black stares downward, confessing what she'd never survive if any of them died because of her. The narrow office feels smaller than it is. Every word costs something. The mood softens just slightly. Isol calls Seiyin's name in the dim room, his eyes half-closed, voice easy. Seiyin turns, sharp and guarded as always, and asks if he's using his gift on them. He laughs. That's exactly what he was hoping she'd say. Seiyin fires back that if she were using her gift, her eyes would glow, and they both know it. For one moment, it almost feels like relief. The light brown-haired boy exhales. He'd been bracing for an argument. The fair-haired man says he never questioned Seiyin's capability. But the dark-haired woman in the corner, the one with the glasses and the tailored suit, speaks with something quieter underneath her words, pulling strings, watching the group navigate each other like pieces on a board. The camaraderie is real, but so is the tension running beneath it. A disembodied frustration asks, "Isn't this good enough?" But the dark-haired woman behind the red glasses is unmoved. That's not what this person's ego feeds on. The suited man, face half-masked, sits tangled in red strings in an abstract dark space, bound by swirling blue energy. He denies it. This isn't just her ego. And the fear underneath his voice is real. If any of them got killed because of him, he would never forgive himself. A haunted eye fills the panel. Never forgive myself. A messy-haired boy in a light jacket tilts his head and acknowledges that she seems at least a little sincere. Then the light-haired man does something unexpected. He applauds, slowly, genuinely. Seiyin has earned herself a second chance. And Seiyin, quiet and straight-backed with her glasses catching the light, makes a simple promise. She won't let them down. Her hand rests on the checkered table, still. The golden bishop falls again, cracks again. The light-haired man picks it up again, murmuring his gratitude for being allowed to try. Then a voice cuts through the quiet. Did he forget Isol's gift? Isol turns to face him, her expression iron steady. Their survival wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. They lived because she, and then the sentence stops. Hanging. Unfinished. Whatever Isol was about to say carries the weight of everything. He doesn't back down. He demands to know how they're supposed to trust Se-in Lee. She claims to have made the best decisions for them, but she took enormous risks. People got hurt. And because of her gift, she could always claim everything was under control. Always. The narration cuts to bloody splatters. Then a headless man in a dark suit. He tells Se-in directly, look where that got him. In a world she discarded. Isol stands at the center of the wooden-floored room, calm but apologetic, acknowledging that the man's reaction isn't unwarranted. But then she turns to Se-in and says it plainly. She's not the one Se-in should be apologizing to. Se-in, light blonde and wide-eyed behind her glasses, absorbs that. The light-haired man in the foreground stands tense and watchful. 3 people. 1 wound that hasn't stopped bleeding. 2 men in suits discuss Min. The light brown-haired man, arms crossed, tells the white-haired man behind him this isn't necessary. But it is Min was stabbed during the fight. Isol is worried. He thinks Se-in has gone too far. The white-haired man almost sounds dismissive, over something so small. Then the dark-haired woman with the glowing green eyes touches her lips and asks, almost to herself, "Oh, Isol, does he really think Min cares?" Her tone says she already knows the answer. The man with the glasses and the dark suit speaks with quiet confidence about human nature, kindness, empathy, pervasive traits even in aberrants. Blue liquid erupts in the background around shadowy figures, chaos framing his philosophy. He reflects with a slight smirk that he successfully brought Ryujin and Isol to his side, but proving himself to others, that's the part that requires patience. Kindness, he notes, can make people act against their own interests, something to keep in mind. A door slams shut. Chapter 107, Essence of a Leader, begins with motion. The dark-haired woman in the red glasses strides down a hallway followed by a suited man, their footsteps sharp on the floor. Then 2 blonde men in suits. One of them takes one look and asks if they're really working with these psychos again. The other tells him to be nice. Tiho Jion sighs so heavily it could collapse a building. Why must God test him? The chapter's opening provides context that reshapes everything. In every generation of the Aberrant Corps, 3 officers rose above all others, the 310 Council. Abstract figures hang inverted in red and white against dark blue, a visual of power suspended upside down. The most influential of the 3 was called the head of the crows. Silhouettes of crows scatter across a pale, grainy sky. The position is ancient, the weight of it even heavier. 3 generations, 3 heads, 3 legacies carved in blood. War god Mijayung commanding forces beneath warplanes with a smile like a loaded weapon. Kinkeler Tihan Jion, white-haired and red-eyed, the man who assassinated a dictator. And then the divine witch Era Sun, one eye covered, one hand plunging into a swirling red abyss to slay the godling Cain. 14 years since her death. Her seat still empty. A throne that no one dares claim. The 310 Council's 2nd annual meeting. Clocks line the walls. A blond man in a dark suit sits at the long table, uneasy, wondering why Captain Han brought him instead of Officer Sang. The latent aura in this room is overwhelming. He can feel it pressing against him, invisible and immense. He clasps his hands together on the table. Behind him, a dark-haired man observes in silence. This is not a room built for comfort. Han, long dark hair tied with a red ribbon, wrapped in a white fur-lined coat, turns slowly. Another council member levels the accusation plainly. They've known about the incident for 6 months, filed a report only 1 week ago. Han's expression shifts from contemplative to sharp, waiting to tell the government, understandable, but keeping fellow captains in the dark. Han's subtle smirk hardens into something more dangerous. That requires an answer. Captain Han sits at the table in his dark green coat, glasses catching the light, while a silhouetted figure behind him names the real motive. He wants to become the head. Han reflects on it internally, the accusation that he withheld information to take sole credit for the case. And then, with remarkable calm, he acknowledges it. She isn't wrong. A propaganda poster of war god Mija grins on the wall behind them. The ambition in this room has a historical precedent. The narration unfolds the history of how heads are made. Jung was promoted during war when the army needed a hero. A silhouette on a fortress wall, sword raised. Captain Han's grandfather took a different path, clandestine government missions, carried out in the shadows. Taehyun had real status among humans and aberrants alike, wealth and influence making him as dangerous politically as physically. Two hands meet in a formal handshake, and the situation only got worse from there. And then there was Era's son. Reddish-brown hair tied back, eye patch with a cross symbol, dark suit, red tie, commander son, head of the aberrant corps. Two small blonde boys bow deeply before her. Minguk and Gukhin Jeon, powerful but notoriously antisocial. Era's internal reaction, an overwhelming, face-clutching emotional eruption. They're adorable, despite the weight of history pressing down on this scene. For one moment, Era's son is just a person completely undone by small children. Era's son kneels to the twin boys, breathless with delight, urging them to say thank you. A male officer interrupts, they'll be starting in 3 minutes. Era responds with a playful salute and a sharp eye. And then in the final panel, she's asleep, head on the table, dead to the world. The contrast between her commanding presence and her unguarded exhaustion is startling. This is the woman who killed a godling, and right now she is absolutely unconscious. A man in a dark suit delivers a full tactical briefing on Operation Kokoji, the Rose Group entrenched at the port, the difficulty of drawing out their leader and the confidence he has in his assembled team. He goes on and on. Meanwhile, Commander Sun, red hair splayed across the conference table, sleeps through every word of it. The blonde twins notice. One calls it rude. The other suggests their father should blow her up. The third just says she looks tired. He's not wrong. Someone calls Commander Sun's name, then louder. She jolts awake at the conference table, confirms she has words for the assembled, absolutely, yes, of course, and stands, walks away from the table, and then turns with glowing yellow eyes and a smile sharp enough to cut. Let's dispense with formalities. She'll lead the search and destroy mission herself, which means, she says simply, they've already won. The room believes her. Meeting over. Era's son, eye patch gleaming, orange eye burning, congratulates her men from a command overlook bathed in orange light. A young boy watches from nearby, struggling to articulate what he's witnessing. He calls it perfect, absolute arrogance that approaches a kind of divinity. The final close-up of that glowing eye, concentric circles spiraling inward, says everything the words can't. This is what a head of the crows looks like, and it is terrifying. Back in the council room, the woman in the white fur-lined coat presses hand hard. Why keep the godling a secret? If he doesn't trust them, how are they supposed to trust him? She calls him a terrible leader for the aberrant corps, her voice sharp as a blade. Han, behind his glasses and his sly smirk, deflects with dark humor. The clocks on the wall tick. Two men listen in the background. The tension in this room has been building for months. Captain Yu smiles with quiet confidence as he clarifies he's not planning to use trainees. He's already using them to gather intelligence. The scene cuts to a brightly lit corridor where a short, dark-haired woman in a light brown jacket and red-rimmed glasses looks over her shoulder with visible irritation. Someone called her Saiyan. She snaps back immediately. They're not supposed to call her that. She's undercover, and she hates being reminded of what she actually is. Captain Yu repeats it, already using trainees, already gathering intelligence, the smile never leaving his face. And then the scene shifts to Saiyan Lee herself. Light brown jacket, red glasses, hands in her pockets, visibly annoyed as someone calls her name in a place where names are a liability. She corrects them sharply. The chapter title appears. Whatever comes next for Saiyan is already in motion. Captain Yu made sure of that. On an evening street, two young women banter in the urban glow. The one with long pink hair styled in buns is enthusiastic and bright, using the other girl's real name, Judihong. Judihong, dark-haired and reserved in a beige sweater, reminds her sharply they're undercover. Right now she's Nahyun. The pink-haired girl processes this with cheerful unconcern. Their cover is civilian. Their mission is anything but, and calling each other by the wrong names could cost them everything. By the year 19XX, most developed nations had banned the worship of godlings. The reason godlings weren't true gods, they were bound to physical bodies, bodies that could be killed. A horned gray figure bound in red rope fills the panel, then stone fragments shattering against red. Then a hand cradling a broken stone mask like a relic of something that refused to fully die. And now the mission has a name. They're targeting the cult of the godling Naj. The man with the glasses taps a drawing of a red figure on paper and explains the Naj cult's true purpose. They're not just a sham religion. They supply the Begonia group with rapture ingredients. Humans, their own believers. Because of legal restrictions, they recruit entirely in secret. That's where the trainees come in. Meanwhile, a dark-haired woman with a clipboard methodically marks off zones that have been checked. The investigation is already underway, and so far, nothing. Taeho-jeon sits across from Se-in Lee in the briefing room, earnest and blonde and casually dressed, while Se-in holds her red notebook and looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. He asks her to fill out the report. She doesn't mind, apparently, since she loves taking notes. Her expression says otherwise. Zone by zone. No results. They're going through motions that haven't produced anything yet. But somewhere in those empty zones, the cult is hiding. The dark blue-haired woman with the red glasses says it plainly. This feels inefficient. Why aren't the police handling this? The blonde man dismisses the idea before she finishes the sentence. Why would they trust the cops? They'd wreck the operation or steal all the credit. And then the blue-haired woman adds something unexpected. Her grandfather was head of the Aberrant Corps. The room goes still for a moment. Taeho, apparently. That's unexpected. A light-haired boy in a blazer jokes about blowing up an ally, their buddy Alleghenia, suddenly labeled a war criminal. The dark-haired girl with glasses catalogs the injustice quietly. They always take the credit. Their region finally has peace. The new government is willing to trade. And then the serious dark-haired man interjects with something that cuts through everything. There's a time-sensitive condition from the governor about their operations. Lilith. The word lands like a stone in still water. Two suited men discuss Captain Han. The third headquarters has absolute confidence in his leadership. He's using every resource, every advantage. And then the narration reveals the weight of what Captain Han has been carrying. Months ago, he found out about the sleeping godling, codenamed Lilith. Two purple hands cradle a small white-haired creature in the visual. The Begonia group found out others knew, and started interrogating rivals violently, red tie crows and blue ties, bloodied and furious. A secret this dangerous leaves marks. A long, dark-haired man in glasses stares in disbelief. Lilith is a myth, a fairy tale. The grinning man across from him, shirt soaked in blood, disagrees with chilling amusement. He killed an entire squad over a fairy tale. The dim warehouse holds this moment suspended, and the narration cuts in with cold logic. The Begonias relax their guard. Whatever Captain Han did with that information, it created a window. Whether that window stays open is another question entirely. Captain Han chose not to report what he found. Instead, he launched his own private investigation into Lilith, a small team, a select circle, a silver-ringed hand holding a document with a stern man's photograph. He pursues every lead personally, leaning out of a car window with the flat expression of a man who has done this before. And then, a dead end. The trail goes cold. Whatever Lilith is, she doesn't want to be found. In the interrogation room, the man with the scar on his cheek sweats through every word. He doesn't know where the godling is. Nobody does. It's Sub Rosa. He says it twice, his voice fracturing. Captain Yu sits across from him, utterly calm, and asks only, "Are you sure?" The drips of sweat hit the floor. Later, Yu walks a sparse corridor, the door clicking shut behind him. The Begonia group, a locked door where the information should be. The Sub Rosa, a Class B godling relic. Whatever location is written inside it cannot be communicated. If Lilith is in there, no amount of interrogation will ever reveal where she sleeps. They have to find her organically. And that means they cannot move against the Begonia group directly, because the moment they do, Penrose gets involved. Penrose, long dark hair, confident smirk, the kind of power that changes the shape of a room. A mechanical claw descends from above. The walls are closing in. The claw machine is rigged. The boy with the glasses has been at this 5 times and he is furious. The girl with the star-patterned shirt and the mask watches, unimpressed. The tall figure in the black mask stands back, and the blue-haired character at the edge of the frame says nothing, but the frustration radiating off all of them is real. This game is a metaphor wrapped in flashing lights and a metal claw that keeps coming up empty. Juni, curly dark hair, purple hoodie, green cap, corrects himself mid-sentence, catching the name before he says it wrong in public. He turns to Heejin, the blonde boy in the light blue shirt, and tells him to use his ability to float the plush out. Heejin hesitates, it feels like cheating. Juni stares at him. The game cheated first. Then he turns to the person with dark hair and glasses and makes it clear. They're here to blend in, not to win toys. The mood shifts. Juni makes a passing comment about Seiyin sleeping with a stuffed rabbit and the group briefly loses it. Heejin cannot believe it. The boy in the black mask grins. Ryuji, long black hair and a beige sweater, looks like he's trying to stay neutral. Juni cuts it off before it goes further. He and Min are scouting Zone D. Ryuji and Isol stay in Zone B. The playfulness fades. The mission is still running. It never stopped. Sunset on a city street. The gray-haired figure frowns and calls Seiyin no fun. The dark-haired character in the green jacket suggests training tonight. A time skip, a classroom, a frustrated male character staring at a page that yields nothing. Zone after zone, day after day, nothing again. The irritation in the room is suffocating. And somewhere out there in one of the zones they haven't checked yet, the Naj cult is recruiting. Quietly, patiently, waiting for someone who isn't looking hard enough. Day 3, and the grind is starting to crack people open. In an autumn park surrounded by orange leaves and the soft sound of a fountain, Jusyoung sits on a bench looking like someone who hasn't slept in days. She vents. All they do is wander, burn their stipend on food and arcade games and nothing. Tsubaki, her Cell 3 partner with the short dark hair and glasses, watches her carefully and calls it what it is. Jusyoung is stressed. Back at the dorm, it's just brief hallway exchanges. Hi Seiyin, good night Seiyin. Never more. Seiyin, dark hair and red glasses, catches a glimpse of a pink-haired girl in pajamas and says nothing real. Then back to the park, Jusyoung admits it plainly, she is stressed. Not numb, not fine, stressed. And somewhere beneath that admission is the weight of knowing they can't even be friends. Not really. Not here. In a classroom, a brown-haired student is already fraying at the edges. They're only second years, he says, like that should mean something. Yeel is slumped over his desk, dead to the world. Someone tells him to take a break. But the dark-haired woman studying across the room, red glasses, suit jacket, pencil in hand, doesn't even look up. A break, she says, is never just a break. It's stopping halfway up a mountain, and stopping means falling. Lunch is over. Jusyoung and Tsubaki push on toward Zone C, but the moment they arrive, the emptiness hits them like a wall. Tsubaki scans the hollow streets and wonders aloud, is this a dying industrial zone? She notices Jusyoung's expression shift just slightly and asks if she said something wrong. The tension between them is small, quiet, but it's there. Zone C has no crowds, no energy, no life, and that should mean something. As the sun dips lower, Jusyoung apologizes for making things awkward. She mentions Dahi like Dahi would have been better company, easier, more natural. She admits it quietly. She never knows the right things to say. But Tsubaki shakes her head and turns it back on herself. She's the one who's bad with people, she says. The sunset wraps them both in warm light, and for a moment the mission disappears. Just two people who don't quite know how to connect, trying anyway. Then Tsubaki says something unexpected. She tells Jusyoung she's actually pretty nice. Maybe too nice for this story. Jusyoung doesn't understand, so Tsubaki explains, a hypothetical she likes to run. If her friend's life were a book, what kind of protagonist would they be? She maps it out: Dahi as the idle face, Junho as the soccer star, Taeyoung as the principled outlier. It's playful, it's warm, but underneath the game, there's something she's quietly calculating. But Jusyoung's face falls. She says it used to be fun imagining things like that. Now it just makes her sad. Tsubaki walks beside her, thinking something she doesn't say out loud. The more she considers it, the more they don't belong here. Then the question turns back on Jusyong. What kind of protagonist would she be? Flustered, she deflects. Tsubaki watches her and thinks one word: liar. End of Day 3. Day 3's debrief. Jusyong sits at a desk in a beige vest, frustrated, facing a tall, fair-haired man with his arms crossed. Nothing to report, he confirms. Nothing. She stares at the Zone C assignment notes and wonders internally if she's being too intense, if her team just needed space and she couldn't read it. The doubt is eating at her. She's questioning her leadership. And that kind of uncertainty in an operation like this is dangerous. Morning of Day 4. A girl with a dark bob and glasses waves off her partner's offer to handle the report. She's staying up anyway. She's been granted access to the computer lab. She has research to do. There's resolve in the way she says it, quiet and final. A silhouetted figure with long hair greets someone named Rayton in the hallway. A hand extends. The mission continues, but something has shifted. Someone is no longer just wandering. And in that computer lab, the pieces fall into place. The Naj cult targets young people. They're the best source for producing rapture. So their recruiters haunt parks, arcades, strip malls. Zones A, B, and D all high traffic, all teeming with exactly the kind of youth the cult hunts. But Zone C, industrial, deserted. No crowds, no recruits, no reason for the Naj to be there at all. Which means their assignment to Zone C was never about finding recruiters. Jusyong and Tsubaki walk through Zone C's empty streets, two young women sticking out like penguins in a desert. Jusyong says it was probably intentional. And then the voice drops lower, colder. They were perfect bait. Not investigators, not recruits. Bait for the Begonia group. The scene cuts to a shadowed room. A dark-haired woman in red-framed glasses and a sharp suit jacket stares into the dark with an expression that cuts like glass. She addresses someone unseen. Isn't that right? Officer Chang,